right, good evening, everyone. The time is 6:01 p.m. It is Thursday, February 9th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we'll begin the meeting with the Employee of the Month. And we wish Kenny could be here today, but the Employee of the Month is Kenny Zay, and he is the Superintendent of the Central Garage, and he was nominated by the entire Central Garage department. And what I'd like to say about Kenny is, so Kenny is retiring. Kenny has been a multi-decade employee of Southampton Village. He is one of the best, good, all-around people that you could possibly meet. Anyone who has ever met Kenny has an instant liking for him because he is just such a great person. And he's not only a great person, but he's also a great department head. As you may know, the village has a fleet of upwards of 100 vehicles between our police department, our fire department, public works department, and other departments. And he, along with his team, manage this fleet of all of these vehicles. And he does an outstanding job, always staying within budget, always making sure that instead of replacing new vehicles, we can get an extra year or 2 or 3 out of those vehicles. He is the person behind the scene for fire, police, and EMS, making sure all those vehicles are kept in order. And the Central Garage is really a great department. It's extremely well run. It's extremely efficient. And he has just done an outstanding job. And as he retires, this is going to be a loss that the village will never be able to replace, but we've got a great person in the wings in Mark Maddock. And so on behalf of the village, I just wanted to recognize Kenny's service to the village, thank him and congratulate him as the Employee of the Month. And I'm also happy to turn this over to other trustees, particularly Trustee Resta, who is a liaison to the Public Works Department and gets to work with Kenny. And so if you'd like to say a few words about Kenny, that would be appreciated as well.
Well, I met Kenny, about 2.5 years ago now, and I was taking a tour of the garage over on Willow Street, and I walked into, I never walked into a garage like that with vehicles all around. It was as neat as can be. I said, boy, you could eat off the floor in this garage. It was very, very impressive. He ran a very tight ship. He was always a gentleman. He was always smiling, very quiet, and never a problem with the budget, right, Charlene, working with him with the numbers and getting the most that we can out of the vehicles, and very respected for the mechanics that worked underneath him. So he will be a loss, but I wish him all the best in this new phase in his life.
Thank you, Trustee Resta. We have a proclamation for him, but we believe that we're going to present it to him at his retirement party. This is the least we can do for him. Just an outstanding person. So thank you very much, Kenny Zay, on behalf of the entire Village Board of Trustees and the village residents as a whole. We are so proud of you, and thank you again.
Hear, hear.
That's right. So we have our public comment portion of the meeting. We understand that many people are here to discuss various issues, but in particular a traffic issue. And I think before we have the public comment, I wanted to, if it's okay with you guys, turn this over to Trustee Resta, potentially Trustee Manger. I know the two of them have been taking the lead on spearheading a possible solution for this. So if you'd like to just share a couple thoughts on this and where we are and how we started, that might be helpful for the members who are here today. Mm-hmm. And then we can come and introduce the public comment.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd like to say we welcomed all the community input. When we first started this, I guess it was last August when it really we started with the different programs that we were testing on Hill Street, and we're talking in particular this evening about Somerset, Pleasant, McGee Street, Bishops. So it's really that whole section of the village that's been so greatly impacted by traffic, especially of the working people that leave during the hours of 3 to 7, 4 to 7, that cut through those neighborhoods to get up on Hill Street. But I just want everyone to know that we welcomed everybody's input, and the community really came together to come up with the solution. We have been consistent with the study. We have been consistent with what we said we were doing. And we just have to let the traffic study speak for itself. This has been, as I said, a work in progress, and hopefully tonight we can come up to some agreement. But they'll be presenting later on this evening. So actually, Trustee Manger's been working on this with me.
Yeah.
And
we've worked very diligently with the folks from NPV, our traffic experts. They are going to do a little presentation. They were out recently, as some of you know, with cameras and doing some recordings of traffic and which direction people were traveling at what time of day. And they really are experts in this field. And we're going to let them give their summation and as well as recommendations for trying to mitigate the traffic situation that we have, especially in the western part of the village.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, do we have them on Zoom, Charlene?
Yeah. They're on the third. They're on third.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that they were going to be available. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move now to public comment. We have a list of those who have signed in, so we'll start with that list. After that list, we will call on you by raising a hand, and then we'll move to Zoom. So Charlene, if you don't mind, you could start with the list. Also, we have a 3-minute limit per speaker, so you may hear a bell ring, and we appreciate everybody keeping within those 3 minutes, especially because we know we have a lot of people who are here to speak. So Charlene, who is first on the list?
Miss Judy Johnson.
Okay. Good evening, Judy. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Good evening, Mayor, trustees, lawyer, and neighbors. I came to the last meeting prepared to present my retirement from the senior committee, but there was no public comment. So I just gave you the copy, and I'm not going to burden you by listening to this, because I've served for quite a few years on that committee, and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
However, COVID created a huge hiatus in our efforts to entertain and inform senior citizens in this village. And this year, we tried to have a couple of events at the History Museum, which has always been very generous in letting us use the space. And frankly, the Christmas party was a very big success. We had kind of poor attendance at the other two. However, I am very happy that the trustee and the village board, the trustees and the village board have agreed to resurrect this committee, and they have scouted out and gotten 2 wonderful ladies in the community, and they're scouting for more, so if any of you are interested, please sign up. The bottom line is that we have 2 events planned for this year, 2023. The first one, because the History Museum is closed in January and February, is going to be at St. John's Church, where Father Patrick has graciously offered the use of his facility. It's on Valentine's Day, so if you know any what he calls the seasoned citizens, nobody wants to be called a senior citizen, you are invited to come for a tea party and entertainment. There will be a movie called Casablanca, which is a golden oldie, happens to be one of my favorites, and you will have an opportunity for socialization, fellowship, and refreshments. There is also another event planned at the History Museum, and that's on May 16th, because May is Senior Recognition Month throughout the United States. And therefore, we have a special program called Hats Off for Seniors, and we're going to have a guest speaker who's going to talk about the history of hats and wonderful refreshments. So all of you people who are watching television, remember you're invited. That's February 14th and May 16th. Bring your mother or your Aunt Susie and enjoy the fact that the village is supporting this. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Mayor, I'd just like to say really deep gratitude to Judy Johnson for the years that she served with distinction on the Senior Citizen Committee. Seasoned Citizen Committee. You've done a great job, and you will be missed. I know you're passing the baton on to others, but really you've done a great service to the village, and I want you to be recognized for that. And
My privilege and my honor.
and
I have to go now and help the kids plan for their 50th high school reunion.
excellent.
Thank you, Judy.
And for those that want to go on Valentine's Day, it's going to start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at St. John's Parish building. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Michael Zinder. Toby Alvin. This might be modified depending upon what you say tonight. So our entire village has a traffic problem, not merely Somerset. All the residents are affected by our traffic problem. The recent act to erect a barricade actually decreases our safety rather than increases it. If there were to be a major safety problem like a fire or someone in cardiac arrest, your decision will slow the response time to attend to the scene or persons involved. It takes a village to solve the traffic problem, not an individual act erecting a barrier. We're a community who should be acting together to solve our problem rather than privatizing a neighborhood and restricting access to it. There's 36 houses in Somerset, while there are over 100 residents between the surrounding neighborhoods of Bishop's Lane and Bishop's Pond. We're all put at risk by this barricade. We're not worried about being inconvenienced, as some have alleged, but we are concerned about our safety with the resultant traffic jams that will occur with this continued closure. Many of the issues raised by the residents of Somerset are the same that occur on most every street within our village. People walk their dogs and push baby strollers in the street virtually everywhere because there's few sidewalks. There's nothing unique to the Somerset area that is not faced by most of our Southampton residents. What is more interesting is that the Somerset streets are some of the widest in the village, ostensibly making them safer. So what makes stepping off the curb so unique in Somerset? What we have in our village is a traffic problem, not a safety problem. If there was a true safety problem, there are other options to remedy the situation, which I hope we'll hear about tonight, all of which the residents of Somerset have reacted negatively to, as they don't want the inconvenience of stop signs, speed bumps, speed cameras, or actual enforcement of current village laws. There is no imminent threat of danger, which is a very specific legal term, by the way, and it hasn't changed from what it was yesterday, last year, or for the past 50 years that Somerset's existed. You've produced no information or appropriate comparison to other streets. Hopefully that will be included in your message to declare that this is an imminent danger before you take such an egregious action as posting a barricade. There's been serious traffic accidents in the village. I don't see barricades going up on Hill Street. I didn't see one going up on Moses. I mean, maybe they should have. Or is Moses coming soon? Who knows with what's being planned? And by the way, lastly, the barricade crosses both the street and private land, limiting access not to just cars, but to pedestrians and bicycles. Are we producing an imminent danger by walking or riding a bicycle through the Somerset neighborhood? It's very easy to assume from the decision to blockade the neighborhood that you're privatizing a neighborhood and creating a discriminatory situation for the rest of the village. It takes a village to solve our traffic problem. Let's act in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Toby.
Merle Lieberman.
Mr. Mayor, trustees, neighbors, last month my Bishop's Pond neighbors and I expressed surprise and dismay that an ugly, illegal eyesore barricade with a misleading sign had been erected on Somerset without community input, based on what we were told were two isolated incidents reported to this board: a near miss of a woman walking her dog and one overturned speeding box truck on a single day. No circumstances provided as to vehicle, weather, or driver conditions, time of day, or any other precipitating factor. Tonight, I express alarm that the barricade is back up without explanation or rational thought and lacking transparency. There are myriad emails to this board suggesting well-reasoned alternatives to this so-called imminent safety hazard about which many of us are still in the dark. I am here to express dissatisfaction as a taxpayer and a village voter to the lack of transparency and candor with which our elected representatives have conducted themselves on this one issue. We do not expect perfection from our elected officials, but we do expect to be fairly and honestly informed and to have our elected officials represent the interests of all their constituents, not a privileged few. You have failed us in this regard. There is no public record of excessive accidents on Somerset due to speeding, curves, or any other unique road condition. To call Somerset an imminent safety hazard is pretextual and false. This is pure and simple a traffic issue for which the trustees and the chief of police have exceeded their legal authority. Wouldn't it be convenient if all civic problems could be solved in this manner by ignoring the many for the few? This is a matter of safety to all who use our public roads. The community does not have much faith or confidence in this traffic study conducted in the last 2 weeks, in all candor, months after the barricade was erected and put right back up in the dead of winter when you can roll a bowling ball down Somerset and not hit a thing. February is not July. For those of my generation, this is not Mayberry RFD. This is one of the most affluent communities in the country with an international reputation. Our elected officials need to act the part. You are tasked with the responsibility of communicating with us openly. I recommended the creation of an ad hoc committee to meet with the expert and the chiefs of police and fire. I was rebuked. It's time to come clean. Take down the barricade and let's find a workable solution together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Cordy?
Good evening to the board.
Jason.
My name is Jason Cordy. Some of you may know me. I'm here to speak tonight about on behalf of my family who lives at 63 Pleasant Lane, specifically my mom who couldn't be here. Has a little injury going on. But as a person that's born and raised at 63 Pleasant Lane, lived there pretty much my entire life, I feel I can speak pretty definitively about what's going on there. So we moved up there in 1977. Back then, none of those intersections were even regulated. First things to go up were the stop signs in the Pleasant Lane, both directions. As you have been aware, that development was kept open against its original designs, and that was, in hindsight, that was really an error. So we look at this as actually correcting an error that was made decades ago by the village. Maybe the residents didn't know any better back then, but who could have foreseen the problem that we created? The problem with that roadway is the engineering of the roadway, the sight lines, and the short straightaways and the sharp turns. Not volume, not convenience. Unless you're going to change the engineering of the roadway, you're not going to solve the problem. The village has tried over the years to mitigate traffic issues up there. The dangers on those corners, they put double yellow lines around the corners. Those are gone because the roads have been repaved since then. The village actually got complaints that actually led to faster traffic. So kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of thing. The stop signs went in, I guess, the mid-90s when there was a lot of stop signs being popped up all over the place as a traffic calming measure. Okay, sort of, that just leads to additional problems of enforcement. Doesn't really solve, again, the engineering, the dangers that are posed on that roadway. You could reduce the speed limit, you could speed bumps, you're just not gonna change, you're not gonna completely dissolve the safety issue of the sight lines. Motorists are gonna drive at a speed they feel is safe for them at that moment, and they're gonna drive as fast as they can, particularly if they're using it as a pass-through. Those are exactly people that we don't want in there. They're cutting through. By the very nature of that action, you want to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. And you're going to go as fast as you can from stop sign to stop sign, from speed bump to speed bump, or from curve to curve. That's just the nature of what happens up there. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. It's not a volume issue. It's just an engineering issue. South McGee Street actually becomes safer. I know most of those residents on South McGee Street are on that 90-degree turn. That actually discourages people from wanting to cut through that way. Keeps them out of the whole area. If you close Somerset, there's no point in coming up in there and trying to find a shortcut that's not there. South McGee Street in the town area where Bishop's Pond empties, so they're actually a town access. It behooves them as well. It cuts down on those people racing down South McGee Street to cut through to Hill Street, or vice versa. Maybe traffic picks up on Bishop's. Bishop's is a long, straight sight line. Bishop's has speed mitigation in place. They put that stop sign at Bernardine and Bishops years ago as a traffic calming measure, and there's plenty of other intersections you could actually implement that on Bishops. I don't like to speak about numbers, if I don't have subjective statements. I don't have that empirical data to support how much of an increase on Bishops happens from Somerset. But that roadway does not pose the same dangers as Somerset and Pleasant. So it's really an engineering issue. Some of the other things that Village tried over the years.
Sorry, 3 minutes.
Is that, am I at 3 minutes or do I have?
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, so there's
Finish up.
there's a host of other, I have a list of things that the Village has tried up there to mitigate this problem. It's just, you can't change the nature of the roadway. We should correct the problem that we didn't correct decades ago. So thanks for listening. Thank you. I
Thank
want
you,
to applaud
Jason.
you for your efforts so far, Mr. Mayor, especially you coming up
Thank
there
you.
and hearing us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shirley, it could also be helpful if maybe we can give everyone a 30-second heads up before the 3-minute mark. Thank you very much.
Jamie Greco? David Rowe?
I know how to do it.
David Ryan, 85 Pleasant Lane. I'll provide you a little respite from your traffic discussion. I'll continue my comments on the assessed value of village properties, which is what is used to allocate the tax burden of the village. To get data for my comments, I look at the weekly press editions for resident sales. Then I look up the assessed values on the village website, and I compute the percentage of the assessed value to the sales property. I have made over 130 of these computations. For example, in a recent edition, it reported that 292 ox pasture sold for $10,400,000. Its assessed value is 1/3 of the assessed value of 53 Windward Way, which sold for $330,000. Thus, the residents of 53 Windward Way at $330,000 are paying taxes 3 times in relation to value as the owners of 292 ox pastures. This is shameful, and no one seems to care. The present 4 trustees don't care. This is the 9th time I have presented this issue in a public forum, and not one of the trustees has done a thing about it. Candidly, it is also disappointing that the press has not exposed this. I have contacted Kaylin Riley and Brendan O'Reilly, reporters for the press, and they have done nothing. We have a local taxing authority discriminating against a class of residents, a class that can least afford to pay a disproportionately high share of the village tax burden, and the press is silent. This is a failure of the responsibilities of the Fourth Estate. We need to find trustee candidates who actually care about the residents of Windward Way, of Dale Street, of Willow Street, of Breeze Lane. The present trustees only care about residents of Ox Pasture, Gin Lane, Cooper's Neck, and First Neck. Let's elect trustees who care and believe in fairness. At the next time we meet, I'll comment on the grievance process and the shoddy treatment I received from Roy Stevenson, Joe McLaughlin, and Bill McCoy. You can read about it, by the way, in a letter that I wrote on March 31st, 2022, in a letter to the editor. If I had been treated with intelligence, I may not have done all the investigative work to provide the data to demonstrate how unfairly the village treats its residents. I may not have been on this year-long crusade to get the village to provide fair treatment for its residents.
Thank you.
Helen Hewer?
Kelly Hoyer.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Put my glasses on.
Kelly, nice to see you.
Hello, I just want, Kelly Hoyer from Somerset, and I just wanted to actually thank the mayor and all the trustees. I'm very much looking forward to the traffic results today, so I'm not going to belabor a lot of the discussions that we've had in prior meetings, but I just wanted to thank you, and I really do believe that it is a safety issue. For the last 2 weeks when the traffic study was being done, I sit on a second floor bedroom while I'm working and watched the police repeatedly pull over, probably on any given night, 3 to 4 people who run the stop sign at McGee. So while that was put in, I know, to slow the traffic on our street, it is only really effective when there's enforcement. So, so I do hope, I'm not sure what we're gonna hear later tonight, but I do hope that the police continue to enforce the stop sign if the road is open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Martin Denman.
Hi, I'm Martin Denman. I live at 602 High Pond Lane in Bishop's Pond. I'm a full-time resident, so obviously I'm a voter, and my wife is a voter, and many of my neighbors are voters. What I don't understand is how a traffic study in January is valid in any way, shape, or form to a decision-making in this process. If you told me that the study was done in May or June, and professionals came up with their valid opinion as to how this should be handled, I could understand that. But what significance is the traffic? I mean, has anybody seen any traffic? We don't have any traffic this time of the year, or at least relative to what we have later on in the season. So I just, it just blows my mind that, we're sitting here putting all of this importance, which is obviously a pretext for the decision that's already been made, on a study that has no validity. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Eric, right up.
Mayor, trustees, it's a strange situation, public commenting on a decision that's already been made, so I'll modify my remarks, but this whole process has been very strange. It has been shrouded in secrecy, and I think you all know that this is not the way that local government is supposed to work. I know that these traffic studies are intended to identify a problem, and then once the problem's identified, you figure out a solution, right? And that's why Article, I think it's 78, is set up so that you have to have like a reasoned basis to make your decisions. And it's happened in numerous municipalities, and I hope this isn't one of them, where you start with the solution and then you find a study to justify the problem that justifies the solution. And I hope that's in a few minutes. I hope that's not what we're about to hear. But I echo the sentiment of my neighbors who don't understand the utility of a traffic study conducted in the winter, not when most of the traffic incidents are occurring. So regardless of what happens in this study, because the decision has been made, I would say that put up the stop signs, put up the speed bumps. My one neighbor pointed to a safe road, he called it, and he said it was a safe road because it has a stop sign. I think that's basically all you need to tell. You all need to know is, let's put the stop sign in to give these residents a safe road. I don't understand, maybe this was part of the study, but if there was a stop sign there before, why did it come down? I'm sure there was a reason. There was a reason the road was opened in the first place. Were those considerations taken into account in your study? The safety concerns that led to opening the road in the first place? Does the study detail why those safety concerns no longer exist? I definitely hope it does, and I hope we hear a reasoned solution that takes into the safety of the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
Okay, that is all for the public comments. All right, Sage, thank you. We can do, before we do Zoom, is there anyone who wants to come up now? All right, you know what, let's do this. We'll do Zoom, and then we can call on everybody to come on up. Okay, thank you.
It's unfortunate. Someone's at the door.
Just the back.
All right, good evening. You can state your name for the record and You have 3 minutes to present, and thank you and welcome.
Yes, good evening. My name is Anna Bruno. I'm the president of the Bishop's Pond HOA, and tonight I'm the voice of 78 other Bishop's Pond residents who are outraged at the inefficient, unsightly, costly, and discriminatory barrier that has been repositioned on Somerset, despite the comments and letters that are on record from your January meeting, as well as those that continue to be submitted to your collective attention. Further, we have not seen any concrete evidence that justifies your claims of imminent safety hazard on Somerset. The bigger picture of too much traffic and too little road capacity is being totally ignored and offloaded onto other streets at a critical time when the peak summer season is just a few months away. Obviously, it is easier to blockade one street stating a fictitious special event and kowtow to a few privileged residents who seemingly have your ear and seek the creation of their own private cul-de-sac at the expense of their neighbors. If you allow this, what is to prevent others on Moses, Corrigan, Dodge, Center, and Bishop's Lane from demanding the same preferential treatment? More importantly, in addition to setting an egregious precedent, you are creating a potentially very dangerous traffic backup on McGee at a railroad crossing. Are we just going to wait for another huge accident to happen at a railroad crossing when deaths and lives are taken? What happened to Mayor Warren's appointment of an ad hoc committee to explore alternatives? Meryl Lieberman, a resident of Bishop's Pond, was asked to join that committee, and as she mentioned earlier this evening, was rebuked. The benefit of her legal prowess would have been a total value add to your entire process. Where is our police department in all of this? Shouldn't they be more visible, enforcing traffic rules, speed limits? Instead of a barricade, why hasn't proper signage been put in place, mandating reduced speeds, slowdowns, children at play? Where's the cooperation and open dialogue among other municipalities to address the overall Hampton's traffic issues? Are we, the Southampton Village taxpayers, to understand that your political motivations, self-interest, infighting, or personal connections are blinding and dividing you from taking the necessary steps to resolve this issue for the benefit and safety of all the neighborhoods affected? I strongly urge you to reevaluate, reconsider, and remove the barricade from Somerset immediately. And I'm hoping that after what we've heard this evening from everyone else, that whatever updates you provide this evening are elaborate, well thought out, and well researched. Otherwise, they hold no validity for any of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Sage, do we have anyone else on Zoom? All right, thank you. Amanda, you may be on mute.
Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Okay, good. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Hello. As you know, I'm Amanda Grove, Maine. I have written to a few of you this week. Here are a few excerpts for the public who didn't get the benefit of reading them. To Trustee Aresta, on her letter to Jane Held, stating that the barricade would go up again after telling Trustee Stevenson it would not. I wrote, your letter is alarming and disheartening to all who have worked long and hard to educate the trustees, the police chief, and the community at large on the short-sightedness and unfairness of a barricade. Our health and safety, our home values, and quality of life in the village, as well as our feelings of being heard, depend upon our being able to trust you. To Acting Police Chief Suzanne Harto, I wrote, we've been told that a truck overturned sometime in the last 50 years, but have not seen a police report. We've seen no evidence that it happened recently. Why then did you attach emergency status to an accident that occurred in the past? What are the facts and the evidence to support a barricade, the most drastic of measures? No emergency response is usually done, any emergency response is usually done in real time. Nothing in this scenario speaks to clear and present danger. Worrying that something is about to happen on Somerset is not evidence that it will. As police chief, one would expect you to deal in fact, not speculation. Accidents happen in the village. There is always risk in driving. Anyone can say that an accident could happen. We can't protect everyone with a barricade. Tonight I have 3 additional points. 1, there is now a direct correlation between the barricade and any accidents or emergency response lapses that occur due to increased traffic on roads caused by the Somerset closure. That means that the board could be liable for negligence or worse. Number 2, as for the safety study, we know nothing about its parameters. What are they testing and how? Is the time of year appropriate for testing? Again, we know nothing. To make matters worse, the study is being conducted under the supervision of the 3 people who agreed to put up the barricade. They are not impartial. Why are there no checks and balances? This barricade casts a long shadow. Elected officials should not be allowed to make arbitrary decisions in secret. We have lost trust. Once trust is lost, it is not easily restored. Thank you.
Thank you. Sage, do we have any more members on Zoom?
One more.
All right, thank you.
What?
We can hear you.
Yes?
Yes,
We can hear you, yes.
Hello. My name is Catherine Andreasen, and I've been a Happy Village resident for 35 years. And, you know, we're all so lucky to be able to live in a beautiful, beautiful area that has a seasonal difficulty with traffic. There is no doubt that we do experience traffic problems during the season, which is not the winter. My worry is that not enough people have been involved in the traffic study. I don't ever see anybody hanging out near the Somerset barrier and checking out what's going on. And even if they did, it would not be applicable at this time of year. So why is the preferential treatment of traffic abatement being given to one neighborhood when we all must absorb the difficulties in the summer? Let's face it. I mean, I live near a street that bans trucks, and there's trucks on it constantly. Is anybody ever ticketed? Does anybody even care? I am thrilled to take long walks around my neighborhood, and when the traffic builds up, they won't even let me into my own street. And I will say this, I live near a very giant curve that, to the gentleman's, assertion that it was a blind spot, yeah, we have that too. All of the village roads are not able to absorb the traffic unless we do it together. And that is and the transparency is crucial. It's crucial. I hear about these things and I witness these things when I'm out there because I'm not there all the time in the winter. But when I am, I'm like, what just happened? 30 seconds. So, thank you very much for listening. I implore the board to come up with a more equitable solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, thank you very much for the public comment. I know there's a few additional people who would like to come up. This is the only opportunity for public comment for, in general. There are some public hearings, but if anyone would like to come up, please raise your hand and I'll call on you and then you'll have 3 minutes. Okay, Mike, feel free to come on down.
Please state your name and address.
Michael White, 276 North Main Street. I came here on the way from work. I saw the local paper about lawsuits, and I've been in a lawsuit with this village, and one of my clients is right now. It's on Lewis Street, and I know you can't talk about lawsuits, but you have a law. I don't know if it's your law firm or whose law firm, but you guys are actually defending a lawsuit that somebody has black windows. All right? You guys are spending tens of thousands of dollars against black windows. All right? You're going to lose. All right? It's in the Constitution. You can't, be selective. You can't be arbitrary. You can't be capricious. And not only that, I don't know if your counsel's told you that in the Supreme Court of Riverhead, you have the building inspector who was tape recorded by my client saying that I get extra hard, they like to pick on me when I have projects in this village, all right? That's your building inspector. But you guys are still defending this lawsuit, and I don't get it. And I don't even know if they know, and maybe you should give them the tape. Because it's in the Supreme Court of, your head building inspector saying to my client, why is this going on? Well, Mike, we give a little extra special treatment. And you guys should listen to it because you're going to be liable at some point with this lawsuit. And you're wasting all these people's money defending black windows. Have you driven around? Half the houses have black windows. Now they don't like black windows on the ARB. I mean, it's really time to think about disbanding that board because they're causing you a lot of problems, a lot of money, and they're arbitrary. You can't say you could have a gray tie on and you can't have a red one, and that's what they're doing with people's houses, and that's over the line. I understand design, but drive around. How many houses have black windows in this village? Maybe 100, 200, 300? Now you can't have them because that's the flavor of the day? And I mean, you guys should really find out from your law firm what you're defending. There's a lot of lawsuits with the ARB and the zoning board. You're never going to win.
30 seconds.
And it's unfortunate that, you guys are breaking constitutional law and everything else. And it's a shame. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Andrew.
One more on Zoom.
The frames are they're actually defending lawsuits.
more Zoom, I think.
Told people no. There's black windows everywhere. And they're spending $30,000-$40,000.
They keep declining and coming in.
Okay, I saw,
You gotta see the lawsuits.
Diane Pacito,
yeah, I saw Diane there. Mike, if you just,
can you,
Michael, you're welcome to reach out to us after, but we'd appreciate if you can
Explain it to these people.
keep it.
Well, what? It's a public meeting.
We're having.
What? We're having what?
If you wanna speak, you can speak in the hallway.
Why can't Diane get in?
I don't know, she was there and they lost her.
Did you? Thanks everyone for your patience. We're just going to wait for one additional Zoom speaker. If there's anyone else who'd like to come forward, now would be a good time. Okay, thank you.
Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Oh, was. Oh, there she is. Mhm.
There she is. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, this is Diane Pacito from 172 Somerset Avenue. I would first like to start by saying that whatever the outcome of this traffic study, we all have two things in common. We are blessed to be residents of this beautiful Southampton village, and we are all children of God. So may I suggest that going forward, we state our views in a kind and respectful manner. And with that said, I would like to thank you, the trustees, and Mr. Mayor, for your continued resolve to solve both the Somerset Pleasant safety and traffic volume issues in our Southampton village. I regularly sit on my front porch with a stop sign in front of my house and one diagonally across from me, watching the police issue tickets as cars roll through the stop sign on Somerset and Pleasant. When police are not present, I watch the cars roll through the stop sign, pick up speed passing my house, and enter one of the 90-degree blind curves. I cringe each time, hoping no one is walking, biking around bends, or pushing a baby carriage. And yes, our street is unique. Take a look at any village map, and you can see that the 90-degree curves are not present on many of the straight streets. Many of you have recognized that there is a safety issue on Somerset Pleasant that is unique and distinct from the inconvenience traffic volume issue on the other street. We've been lucky so far that the incidents have not resulted in bodily harm, just property damage and close calls with pedestrian and bikers. I fear that one day our luck will run out. Thank you again for recognizing the unsafe conditions, for addressing safety on Somerset and Pleasant, and for all the work you have done, because it's a difficult job to keep us safe, make our village a better place to live, and a pleasant place to raise families, socialize with friends and family, and continue our blessed existence there. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I don't see any additional speakers. We do have a number of board presentations, but before that, I just wanted to turn this over to see if any board members have any comments at this time, and if so, feel free to say them.
Not at this time.
Any comments from the board?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay.
Are we commenting on our opinion of the Somerset application, or are we gonna do that after the traffic study update?
You can do it whenever you like. That might be a good opportunity to do it. I just wanted to check in with the board and see if they had any comments or any responses, but if not, I understand this is a part of a listening session, and that's also our job to listen as well. The only thing that I would add is I'm looking forward to hearing from the NPV engineers regarding the traffic study, and we'll see how that turns out, but I would encourage everybody. I'm looking forward to working together with this board and working as a team on behalf of the village residents, and I think that's what the residents obviously expect of us, so that's what we'll be doing. That being said, it could be a good opportunity, depending on whether the outcome of the traffic study is of interest to the village residents, to reconsider putting together a committee, a small committee based with residents of Bishop's Pond, Bishops, Somerset, the chief of police, the chief of fire, traffic engineers, and anyone else who is interested. I've had the opportunity over the last couple months to interact with many residents across the village, across geographies, across backgrounds, and what I've been told is that residents on Somerset and Pleasant Lane and residents on Bishop's Pond and Bishop's Lane would be interested in this traffic study, because what I've learned in my brief 3.5-year tenure is that the results generally are welcomed when residents feel like they're heard and feel like they're involved. But when there's situations when residents don't feel like they're heard and don't feel like they're involved, regardless of the outcome, those issues generally don't end up in a positive light. I'll give 2 examples. I would commend Trustee Aresta, who led a leaf blower committee just a year ago, and this was a very contentious issue. We put together a committee. Again, thank you to Trustee Aresta, who led it, and we brought together environmental groups and landscaper groups alike. Everybody worked together, and then they brought our board a solution that all of them, each group liked, and then we came out with a positive outcome. Of course, there will be some naysayers, but largely the large majority did agree and thought that was a good technique. When I was first elected, there was a little bit of a issue regarding surfing on our beaches. In fact, there was an old archaic law banning surfing, and we put together a surf committee with surfers and bathers and everyone in between, surf instructors. And that committee took some time. They came back to the board and they gave us a solution to which to adopt. And as hard as it sometimes is in government, we actually made everyone happy. And I believe that that's something that we could do if we were to welcome a committee. I think that if we had a few weeks to work together, I think that's something we can solve. When I spoke to residents on Somerset, they welcomed the idea of this committee, and they said they think they have some solutions that they could pitch to the residents of Bishop's Pond that would be good for both communities. So I would hope that maybe that's something that we can do. I'm happy to work with the village residents on that across communities, and I think that the more input we have, the better off that will be. But we'll keep on moving. I think it probably makes sense. Would you guys like to do the comments from board members now, or should we just move to board presentations?
Let's just
Move to board
Okay,
presentations.
so the first, there's 3 board presentations. The third one is the traffic study. The first one is gonna be from the Southampton History Museum, and that's from Tom Edmonds, the executive director, who's here. Good to see you, Tom, and thanks for all your hard work, and congratulations to you, and obviously the village on the grant that we just received. It was fantastic news.
Really good. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, village trustees. I have in front of you, you all have 14 pages that I sent in. Unfortunately, it's documentation, not very exciting, but the first couple pages are photographs. So I wonder if the village board knows that you own the Sam L. Parrish collection of artwork that he left behind. Is that familiar to everybody? Mayor, I know that you took a tour of the storage facility, so my request tonight is a simple one. I am asking the village board, because this is the 125th anniversary of the Parrish Art Museum. And the Parrish Art Museum is commemorating that with a lot of shows and things, but no one is talking about Sam Parrish. My proposal for borrowing about 17 art objects from that storage collection that's at one village building, the Southampton Art Center, now holds the village-owned Sam Parrish collection, and I want to move it to another village-owned building, the Rogers Mansion. So that's in essence my request. If we can look at page 2, do you have hard copies of this package? I know.
Yes.
It's at the end of the presentation.
Yes, we do.
So it's a black and white photograph. This is the interior of the Parrish Art Museum in about 1920, and most of this is Sam Parrish's personal collection that he acquired for the museum, and most of them are plaster casts. A lot of them are gone, missing, I don't know how. There's documentation behind this, but in this photograph, the 2 things that I can easily identify is the frieze. You'll see a Roman frieze across the top. This is still in the lobby of the Southampton Art Center. And if you look down to the left, there's a niche. It's a terracotta niche with a beautiful statue in it. That niche, that terracotta niche, is now at the end of the brick walkway to our north gate. So that's one of the few things that I found that I identified. On page 3, you'll see the storage collection. It's been reduced. Mayor Warren, you were there when it took up the whole room. Now it's been pushed back to a corner. I would say there's about 80 objects, a mixture of plaster works, carved statues, and the paintings. The paintings are basically, and there's documentation for this, are fakes. Beautiful fakes in gorgeous frames that are probably of the Renaissance period or later. So this has been documented over the years. It's included in the packet. If you look at page 4, the Southampton History Museum somehow got some of Sam Parrish's collection. So there's 8 photographs here of things, and there's more. These are all part of the Sam Parrish collection that are now on view at the Rogers Mansion. And then at the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the niche that I was talking about, which I think is familiar to everybody. Page 5, this is Sam Parrish's billiard room that we now use as a temporary exhibit. And it's ready to go. And so am I. I just want to read Greg Hedberg, who's an architectural historian. Some of you know he's also a Southampton resident. I just want to read his quote from 2010. It's at the bottom of page 1. In short, the works at the very top and bottom of value of this collection were sold off. What remains is an eccentric collection that, while not of great monetary value, is part of the history of Southampton and the heart of the collection Sam Parrish formed for his museum. So this year, 2023, I'd like to honor Sam Parrish for starting this wonderful museum and cultural attraction that is now in Watermill, but we still have a piece of Sam Parrish's heart, which was art, and I'd like to show it. So I'm asking for permission to borrow 17 pieces and two bronzes, actually 17 paintings and 2 bronzes.
So Tom, I have one question. How long is the term of the exhibit?
1 year. It ends December 28
Okay.
this year.
Any other comments from the board?
No, I think that's great.
A lot better to be in your museum than sitting in a closet
Yeah, in the
somewhere.
basement.
Thank you.
I think it's in the basement, right?
It's in, now it's been moved around, so it's not in very good shape, but I want to take the best pieces and have a show.
Is that enough space that you have? Seems
No.
like, yeah, I was
No.
gonna say, I don't think that's
I'm
enough
just taking
space.
17 paintings,
Oh,
2
gosh.
bronzes, and some
Even for
furnishings.
that, okay.
Yeah, select, it's going to be
I
selected.
had a
Yeah.
question bubbling, but you answered it about whether it would make any sense to deaccession some of these things and sell them off, but they're not really worth it.
They would come onto the market, and I've talked to Greg Hedberg about this. He's still here and involved with the Southampton History Museum, and he says it would flood the market, only it would have to go to an auction, and parsing it out piece by piece, you know, it's not a popular art trend right now to collect Renaissance pieces, especially fake ones. I don't know, but I think its monetary value is very small compared to Sam's legacy here in the village. I'd like to start tomorrow. No pressure.
No pressure.
Thank you, Tom. It seems like that's fine with the board. We really appreciate you doing this. As the board had said, these are pieces that are sitting in storage, collecting dust, and I think it will be phenomenal for these to be on display for the public to see.
I'd like everybody to come to the opening March
Yeah.
16th then. Thank you, if that's your approval. I'm ready to go.
All right, excellent.
I have one more request.
Please.
As long as it's not money.
No,
got
it's
plenty
actually,
of
this
that
is
already.
fun. This is
Okay.
fun. Judy Johnson inspired me to think that maybe the village could make a proclamation that May 16th be Judy Johnson Day. And that's the day she's having her hats off to seniors at the Rogers Mansion, and I'd like you guys to present it to her.
Great idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Is that okay? I'll follow up with a
That's why you
email.
make the big bucks coming up with ideas like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. If the pieces turn out to be real, we'll have to limit down from a month to a year down to a month, but we'll see. It's a great collection, so thank you very much for the hard work. We'll keep on moving tonight. Our second board presentation is the financial statements for the fiscal year end, May 31st, 2022, presented by PFK O'Connor Davies, LLP. Those are our auditor services. Are they here with us tonight?
Stage, I think you will have Mr. DeVoli, Jeff DeVoli, and Jen Clark. If you could bring them in, please.
Thank you, Charlene, and thank you for all your hard work working with our auditors. We've definitely noticed a big improvement.
Great.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jeff DeVoli. I'm the audit partner for PKF O'Connor Davies. We're based out of Hop Hog. We're an accounting and auditing firm. I have with me tonight senior manager who works on the engagement, Jennifer Clark. So I have a PowerPoint. Can I share that up?
Yes, you can.
We're still waiting. I don't know if you are looking for your PowerPoint, but you can just share a screen and it will be up for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
You there?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Board of Trustees. As the Mayor said, this is a presentation on the audit of the financial statements for the year ended May 31st, 2022. Just a quick agenda. We'll give you a quick update on the audit status, our responsibilities as your auditors, your responsibilities as management and those charged with governance, a quick review of our audit scope and approach, some financial statement highlights, and some required communications, internal control matters, and then the management rep letter. So the audit status is we are done with the audit. We met with the audit committee on December 20th, 2022 to review the draft. All significant audit areas have been addressed and substantive audit work completed. Work was completed with our audit plan. We anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements for May 31st, 2022. You might recall last year that we had a modified opinion because of some concerns about the bail account in the Justice Court. That has largely been fixed this year, so we anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. We have just a couple open items. One is the review of you as those charged with governance tonight, and the other is the receipt of a signed management rep letter that is part of our audit. Our responsibilities are to form and express an opinion about the financial statements, whether they're presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. We plan and perform our audit in accordance with professional standards to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance about the financial statements and being free of material misstatement. We consider but do not render an opinion on internal controls. We accumulate misstatements identified during the audit and communicate those with you. We, of course, conduct our audit with professional skepticism, and we also evaluate the presentation of required supplementary information, which we give in relation to opinion on the whole of the financial statements. We also communicate significant matters that are relevant to the responsibilities used of those charged with governance in overseeing the financial reporting process, including all risks. Our audit was not specifically designed to detect significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. However, if we come across them, we communicate them to you. Our audit cannot be relied on to identify all instances of fraud and illegal acts. And the process used by management to formulate particularly sensitive accounting estimates and our conclusions about the reasonableness of those estimates. Your responsibilities as those charged with governance and management is to select appropriate accounting policies, fairly state the financial statements in accordance with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles, establish and maintain effective internal controls, comply with laws and regs, set the proper tone at the top as it relates to honesty and high ethical standards, and designing and implementing policies and internal controls that not only prevent but also detect on a timely basis fraud. We communicate with the auditors and overseeing the financial reporting process. These are what we consider our audit scope and approach. These are significant areas as we see them in the audit: cash, revenues and receivables, accounts payable, equity, payroll and related expenses, capital, assets and expenditures, debt, and audit procedures under generally governmental auditing standards, Some financial statement highlights. Overall, the financial statements produced a net position increase of $2.8 million in governmental activities. Overall net position of a negative $40.8 million in the governmental activities, which is comprised of net assets in capital assets of $30 million, restricted position of 7.4, and an unrestricted deficit of 77.6. So we talked about this in great detail in audit committee on what produces a net unrestricted deficit of the 77.6, and it's largely the liability, specifically the OPEB liability, which was $68.5 million at the end of the year, and $7.1 million in serial bonds that contributed to that, as you raise taxes to pay only the current portion of those, not the long-term portion. Some more financial statement highlights: fund balance in the general fund, $2.6 million, which was an increase of 14%. Capital projects increased by $174,000. Special revenue fund by $55,000. And the fund balance by type, non-spendable, which is generally prepaid expenses. 1.1, restrictions, which is New York State generally, general municipal law reserves, low SEP amounts, and the special revenue fund balance, 7.4, signed fund balance, 7.8, and unassigned of $12.8 million. Some budgetary highlights: revenues over budget, $3.2 million due to departmental increase in state aid exceeding expectations. Expenditures under budget of $459,000, generally due to the savings in employee benefits. And the final budget included a planned deficit of 1.7. Unassigned fund balance of 12.8 represents roughly 39% of the 2023 general fund budget expenditures. So we talked about in the past what that means, and the state controller generally likes 10 to 20%. This is a very safe level of fund balance, considering that the 71% of your revenues come from real property taxes, and you have a very strong and reliable tax base. This is just some stuff that's coming down the pike. Anybody who knows about this stuff cares about it. It's Statement 87, which is leases, conduit debt. We went over these last year for coming on the horizon in 23. An omnibus statement 2020, and we talked also about the interbank offered rate replacement, GASB 93. Auditor's responsibilities under professional standards and planned scope and timing, qualitative accounting policies. No matters have come to our attention that require us to inform you about the effect of significant accounting policies in controversial or emergent areas for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus. Unusual transactions, again, no matters have come to our attention that would require us to inform you about the methods used in the accounting of significant unusual transactions. Accounting estimates and management's judgments, there are many. Depreciation, compensated absences, we talked about OPEB, LOSAP, net pension liability. Management has determined that these estimates are appropriate and accurate, and we determine that they are reasonable in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. Financial statement disclosures, again, there's many of those in the financial statements are referred to as footnotes. The financial statement disclosures are consistent and clear, and we have not encountered any significant difficulties in performing of the audit. And the part of the performing the audit is identifying significant risks. As many governments have, we identified these particular risks: management override of internal control, improper revenue recognition, and financial statement presentations and issues. We had no such disagreements with management during the audit. We're in the process of requesting certain representations from management so we can issue the financial statements. Part of the audit is also management informed us that, to our knowledge, there's been no consultations with other accountants, also known as opinion shopping, and that we need to communicate to you that none of the conclusions reached in our audit were tied to retention as your auditors. None of them statements identified by us and corrected by management material, either individually or in the aggregate to the financial statements taken as a whole. We got some internal control matters. Jen, would you like to take those?
Sure. So our first internal control finding related to the resident beach permit. It was a repeat finding from the prior year. Due to the timing of the village's year, this actually relates to the summer of 21, so it was would have occurred prior to being brought to the village's attention. And it's the internal controls over the beach permits being issued, and there's not sufficient records to indicate that all of the resident beach permits were properly accounted for. Regarding cash collection at the beaches, we noted that a lot of cash is taken in daily at all of the beaches, and we always recommend trying to keep cash collections, especially off-site, to a minimum, as cash is always a high risk for fraud. Then we had a finding relating to the Justice Court accounts. The monthly bank reconciliations were not being reviewed on a timely basis and were not, and included several old reconciling items. That has since been resolved, but it was done toward the tail end of our audit. And our final finding was related to the building department cash receipts. We just noted that the building department does not have their own cash register. So when residents come in to interact with the building department, if there's any change needed, they have to go to the village clerk, and the building department has to attach cash payments to the applications before sending it down to the village clerk's office.
Thank you, Jen. I'd also like to say on the Justice Court, we pointed this out when we first became your auditors last year, and we considered this a material weakness. There are generally various levels of internal controls. The worst, what we consider the worst of those internal control matters are material weaknesses. We considered this a material weakness last year, and as I said before, that's why we qualified the opinion on that opining unit. We have lifted that and have downgraded this to just a reportable condition. And I'd like to commend Mrs. Cagle-Betts and Ms. Crudop for the work that they put in, just tirelessly trying to get this Justice Court situation straightened out. And they've done a tremendous job on fixing that, so thank you.
Julie deserves
Jen, we had one other.
Apologies. We also had one finding relating to timesheets, in that not all employees were required to submit timesheets for their hours worked. This is another finding that has since been resolved with the implementation of an electronic time clock system, but it wasn't resolved during the year under audit.
Thank you, Jen. As I said, the last remaining item to complete the audit and issue the financial statements, which are literally days away, is just receipt of the management rep letter. That's all I have. Any questions from the mayor or board of trustees?
Thank you, Jeff and Jennifer. Bill, I see you have a question down there.
Yeah, I have one question. Would it make sense for us to go to a cashless system rather than worrying about cash? I mean, you know, the idea of having a cash register in the building department seems a little antiquated at this point. I'm just curious what other municipalities do. It seems maybe we should just go cashless.
Yeah, a lot of municipalities are going in that direction. COVID kind of pushed them in that direction, so that was a good, you know, like I said, pushing in the direction of going cashless. There are certain communities that, you know, they operate their households with cash, so that might cause that a problem. I'm not sure about this community. I suspect not, but we always suggest that the less cash you can handle, generally because of the combination of inherent risks that are involved in handling cash, which are usually kids and cash. Cash is, you know, the most easily converted asset in the world.
Yeah.
Other municipalities are definitely moving in this direction, and I suspect within a couple of years we'll be mostly cashless.
I did
Thank you.
actually have a conversation with Ted about it. They did order a lockbox to keep any small items. If somebody comes in and asks for a copy of something, but for the most part, they're going to move to check or credit card.
Yeah.
And the beaches, of course, you know, we ordered those iPads, so we'll be using those. We use them at the end of towards the end of this summer, and then next summer, we expect to be cashless at the beach as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Finance Department for their help during the audit, and thank you, Mayor and Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right. Jeff and Jennifer, I just wanted to thank you very much for the presentation. Charlene, wanted to thank you as well, and really wanted to extend a special thank you to Julie, who really did an excellent job working with PF O'Connor Davies and working on a day-to-day basis. This was last fiscal year's budget. This was an excellent budget. As the auditor said, we had $3.2 million of revenue above budget, almost $500,000 of expenses below budget, and a 38.7% unassigned fund balance, which is well above the 20% that's required and recommended. So very healthy fiscal situation. The only question I had is, maybe I'm doing my calculations wrong. If there was a $12.8 million unassigned fund balance with a total fund balance on 29.1 million, is that correct? Because I got 43.9%.
Yeah, Mayor, the way the calculation works is, the way that the calculation is relevant to us is, you don't necessarily take 12.8 on the fund balance, you take it on the ensuing year's expenditures. And that produces the percentage.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification. All right, unless there's any other comments, we'll move
Thank
to
you,
the
Jeff.
traffic.
So next steps, tomorrow you'll receive the rep letter, and then the board will get a draft copy, and we'll do a resolution at the next meeting to accept the financials.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Charlene.
Thank
Good
you very
job.
much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay. So one way to get a financial audit to have undivided attention is to do the traffic study after that. So we'll move forward. We have Nelson Pope and Voorhees engineers. I know Osmond is here, and I know there's another engineer as well.
I think it's Russ,
Russ,
probably.
yes.
Russ. Who's Jeff?
That was Jeff.
Oh.
And thank you again for everyone's patience.
Could you ask them to raise their hand?
If you could raise your hand, we can let you guys in. This is to NBV.
Russ and Osman. And I think, was Captain Hertel joining as well?
Mm-hmm.
Captain, if you can raise your hand as well, Sage can let you in. All right, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. So I'm Russ Scott from Nelson and Pope. We have a quick little presentation to go over what we reviewed, and then I'm here to answer any initial questions. I'm going to share my screen so that I can jump between some presentation boards and Google images, just in case we need to look at the roads to better explain what's going on. I believe everyone can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Nelson and Pope was initially brought aboard in this past August to do a traffic study of Hill Street between Windmill and Tuckahoe Lane to review the congestion that the village sees and the cut-through traffic from CR9 and headed south to use Hill Street to head westbound, and also the cut-through traffic that uses Ox Pasture Road and then heads up to make a left, and then also head westbound along Hill Street. So during our study back in August, we had traffic data recorders that collected the volumes along the roadways, and we also had two of our traffic engineers driving all the village roadways within the area so that we could experience and see what was going on with our own eyes. So that we would get a good sense, and we can compare the data that we received from the traffic recorders to the actual field conditions of what was going on. We came back into the office, we reviewed the data, and it was clear as day that the traffic moves very, very slowly along Hill Street, and there are vehicles headed down from 39 making right turns on Somerset, Bishops, Corrigan, making that right and heading westbound along Hill Street. We also saw a volume of traffic headed northbound along Lee. There was a large backup along Lee, making the left to head westbound also. So once we did that, we came up with some potential mitigation measures. Some of those measures included increasing the speed limit along Hill Street. We felt that, you can see the picture on the screen, there are lots of speed limit signs to control the speed. And there's a large police presence out there. By controlling the speed too much, you're actually creating a choke point, and it does not let the traffic and the roadway function as it's supposed to. During our study, we saw that as soon as the vehicles got past Tuckahoe, the speed limit picked up to 35 miles an hour, and there was zero backup of vehicles. So one of our recommendations with the village implemented was increasing the speed limit so that the road could process more vehicles in a given time. We also came up with a bunch of turn restrictions, potential turn restrictions on Somerset and Bishops, Corrigan, Moses, Lee, and Captain's Neck that could be implemented in the future to prevent some of that cut-through traffic. And lastly, a more aggressive measure, we looked at improvements along Hill Street, which was potentially adding a center turn lane, adding left turn pockets, right turn pockets, to see if we can get the vehicles that need to make turns out of the through movement, so that if someone was making a left turn or slowing down to make a right turn, the vehicles behind them did not have to slow down, and they can continue to progress westward, and we could get more traffic through the area. So then fast forward to January of this year, the village reached out again, and they asked us to specifically look at the cut-through traffic coming from CR 39 south through Somerset, Bishops, and Corrigan. We were informed that the north end of Somerset was closed, so we asked to do a study and review the volumes and see what the impact of closing Somerset had on the surrounding road network. So once again, during our peak hours, we sent our engineers out to Somerset, Bishops, and Corrigan. We also had video cameras out on the poles so that we can count the number of turning vehicles. So this second slide shows the volumes. The volumes in red are the volume of traffic between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on a single given day. It was a Friday. Of what turns were making, what vehicles were making what turns. So the red represents when the north end of Somerset was closed. So obviously no one can make a right down Somerset when the road is closed. We did have 8 vehicles make the right onto Hill Street. Obviously residents that live in the area headed south and made the right. You can see the volume of traffic making the right on Bishops was 199 vehicles. Then we asked the village to remove the barricade. We waited 2 weeks to allow the traffic to normalize a little bit more, and the blue numbers represent the volume of the vehicles that come through and make the right turn. So you can clearly see that at Bishop's Lane, it drops from 199 down to 86. The traffic on Somerset increases from 8 vehicles to 43, as now vehicles can travel down Maggie Street or north along Maggie Street, make the left, and use Somerset as a cut. So we wanted to get a picture of what was going on. I understand that it was the winter. That does not prevent us from creating a before and after look. Obviously in the summer, that 199 might be 400. We understand that. We have empirical data from our August study that gives us an understanding of what's going on in the summertime. but we feel confident in our numbers by doing a study while the road is closed and while the road is open, how that affected the surrounding roadway. So after we have that data, we brought it back to the office, we sat down with the traffic engineers and tried to come up with solutions of the ultimate goal is how do we prevent the vehicles coming from CR 39 southbound, making the right onto Hill Street and having all that traffic on the residential roadways. We looked at things like making roads one-way northbound. We reviewed Somerset. Going northbound, other sections of other roadways. Obviously, there's a huge inconvenience of making roads one-way. There's not a grid system of the roadway network here. So if you needed to go in a certain direction, it's a very ominous route and inconvenience to the residents to make one-way roadways. We looked at continuing to keep Somerset as a dead end and looked at the pros and the cons to that. We did recognize that Somerset has very tight right-angled turns. There is limited sight distance. There are high speeds going along the roadway. So there are safety concerns on Somerset with these 90-degree turns that cars can leave the road, especially this road was not designed to carry heavy volumes of road. There was a comment made that straight roads carry vehicles more efficiently. That is correct. Bishop's Lane or Corrigan Street, vehicles can move in a more safe manner along a straight roadway than a roadway with curves. Excuse me. So once we were looking through the one-way, keep the closures, we also looked at turn restrictions. And ultimately, our preliminary recommendation, show you this diagram, is to restrict right turns between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Somerset, on Bishops, and on Corrigan Street, so that vehicles traveling from the north, from CR 39 south, do not have the opportunity to use these roads as cut-through. We think it is very important to have advanced signing so that these vehicles understand that there are restrictions and try to prevent vehicles from headed south, realizing there's a turn restriction, either ignoring it and trying to make the turn anyway, or pulling a U-turn maneuver and creating additional safety and other concerns on the roadways. So we felt by restricting right turns at these 3 roadways and putting advanced signing, it would be a good compromise and solve the solution of vehicles headed to the south. The village also asked me, there was some discussions about speed humps and speed bumps on village roadways, specifically Hazley. It's a straight and narrow road that has some speeding problems.
That's Halsey.
Halsey.
Sorry, I apologize.
Because there's no hazy. Everybody's thinking, what road is that?
I apologize. So there are, the industry used to use speed bumps, which are, you see them in all the parking lots. They are narrow, they are 2 to 3 feet wide with, they vary anywhere between 3 and 6 inches high. Currently, many municipalities and the industry has gotten away from the old school speed bumps, and they now utilize speed humps. Speed humps are 12 to 14 feet in length. They rise between 3 to 4 inches. They're a little bit more calming to the vehicle. It's not such a bump as you're going over it. It accomplishes the same thing. It's a little bit more friendly to the plows and to the rider of the vehicle. But like I said, it accomplishes the same thing, just in a gentler manner. It reduces the speed of the vehicle on the road. This photograph is a temporary speed hump that is approximately 12 feet in length. It can be removed in the winter if the village so chooses to allow easier access for the plows. There are also, this is a permanent asphalt speed pump, just to give you a feel of what the difference is for the two. I'm sure these can be in yellow or white. You want to have the markings, you want to accompany them with signs so that vehicles know that they're there. You don't want someone driving down the road and hitting it at night or something like that. So it needs to have markings on it, and there needs to be signs that go along with the speed humps. That is what, so that is all I have. I can bring up Google if you want to have a further discussion. If anybody has anything else to add.
Thank you.
Sign this? Yes. Did you want to talk a little bit about signage? What we had spoken about yesterday throughout the village. The Captain Herchow and I were talking about putting something perhaps on Prospect and North Main Street, or North Sea Road, I'm sorry. Or do you want to talk a little bit about that, Captain Herchow? And enforcement, please.
Yeah, so
That's really-
whatever the village board decides that they want to do as far as the recommendations from the traffic engineer, the police department will be out in full force once those regulations are put into place, just to get people familiar with the new regulations that are put in place, and we'll be issuing tickets to those violators that aren't going to comply with whatever it is, whatever regulations are put into effect. As far as signage goes, we're of course gonna refer to Russ and Osmond as far as, placement. I do think over on West Prospect Street would be a good idea, and even also too over by Railroad Plaza, because that's where a lot of the traffic in the afternoon is coming from. They're coming off of 39 from David White's Lane, they're coming down to Railroad Plaza, to Prospect Street, to West Prospect, down Pelham, and then they're hooking a hard right up to Moses
Yeah.
to go up to 39, or to go down Bishop's Lane to get to Somerset, which is the westernmost street in the village that can access Montauk Highway. So that's why people are using Somerset. And, the long and short of it is there's too many cars and not enough road. And that's gonna be an increasing problem as time goes on, unfortunately. So I think the recommendation that they're making with the no right turns is a good start. But we have to get the signage up to warn the motorists, to give them a fair opportunity to comply with whatever regulations are put in place.
And perhaps we could have some help with the blinking light once again over by the Shinnecock Firehouse.
By St. Andrews, yes.
Yeah, by St. Andrews, yeah.
Yep, I have to touch base with Chief Kiernan over at the Southampton Town, so we can coordinate our efforts with that again.
Yes, and we're also speaking with the county concerning the highway, trying to get that, because I, as I said from the beginning, unless we get the only way we're gonna get relief in the village is to keep the traffic on the highway.
Correct.
So,
That's
yeah.
the objective, is to
Right.
keep the traffic on 39 and on Hill Street, and keep the feeder roads clear.
Right. And keep those two roads moving, so people are not cutting through the neighborhoods, right?
That's right.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any comments from the board?
Roy?
Well, I'm happy to hear the recommendation of the traffic study is to create a global solution. From the get-go, I was not a fan of the barricade. I sent all the trustees a notification back in January stating that. I've written a letter in the press about that. Not because I'm against safety on Somerset, I'm all for it, and I think the village should continue to investigate methods to make the road safer and slow down the speed of the traffic going through that area. But I've just felt that any solution that puts more of the burden on the rest of the village is not fair. And I felt the solution should be spread out over all the streets that are affected by this issue. I'm actually surprised to see in the study that even after the barricades were removed, Bishop's still had a larger share of the cut-through traffic than Somerset. So I'm very pleased to hear the recommendations. I'd like to see the barricade removed, just because I think it's unsightly. It doesn't really help the safety issue, and it creates a safety issue of its own in terms of emergency vehicles not being able to get access, additional traffic on the other roads. So I think this is a good step, and I'm not sure if it's the final step. I think we're gonna have to work on it. When we did do the no right-hand turns previously, Captain Hertow, you know, we had police officers there, we had cones, we had flashing lights. Of course, that always slows everybody down because they're wondering what the hell's going on. I would hope that we can get some sort of enforcement that's not quite so oppressive and make, you know, I'm not really sure how to do that. That's something we're gonna have to figure out, how to do that better, so that the actual enforcement doesn't create traffic issues. But people will learn that if they turn right there between 3 and 7, they're gonna get a ticket. And that's gotta become part of the psychology of the people who are commuting in the village. As I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, I noticed that you've increased speeding enforcement on Hill Street in the morning. I guarantee you, when people drive that road every day, like the Trade Parade does, when they begin to see that guys are getting pulled over on a regular basis, they're gonna go slower and they're not gonna drive as crazily. So, anyway, I think this is a great first step, and thanks to NPV for that recommendation, and thanks to Bill and Gina for putting that together.
Thank you, Trustee
Thanks,
Stevenson.
May I just say something? I would like to, if the trustees and the mayor would permit, just to give the opportunity, since we have the experts here, for anyone in the audience, there were certain things that were said. Please take this time to ask the experts the questions.
Is that okay with the board? That's fine by me, Trustee Brown.
Thank you.
Well, I've been driving that route off and on for 30 years, and there's never been a problem on those roads until they put the lights at the college and the reservation. When that light's blinking, there's no backup. And I don't understand a traffic study that says, let's raise the speed limit when it's bumper to bumper. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about people speeding through there. I lived on Bishop's Lane for a year, and there was no speeding. It's just cars sit there for hours. And, you know, I think what happens is a lot of municipalities, they have all their lights blinking at rush hour, a lot of them, and we don't do that. So if you cut off this route, you know, Southampton Town will cut off Watermill, and then what are you doing? I mean, you're hurting people that are going to work. And I think that study's very flawed by what they say. I mean, raising the speed limit on bumper to bumper traffic, putting speed bumps, that's not the problem. I mean, I've seen the police officers standing there and they saw it themselves. It's just cars forever, just, you know, standing there for hours and hours, taking 3 hours to get out of there. So I think.
So what do you suggest?
Take the lights out. You don't need a light at the reservation. How many cars come out of St. Andrews? 2? I mean.
We need the county and the town to agree to do that.
But that's what you should have been doing, because the traffic study isn't gonna accomplish anything because they didn't go out to the lights. All they did was the village. So if you don't find out what the main problem is, you know, what good is that? You know, you can't make Hill Street a 4-lane highway. You can't make the speed limit 50 miles an hour. It doesn't make sense. And putting speed bumps, that's ridiculous.
Speed bumps are not designed for Hill Street, sir. They're for other.
No, for the side roads. What is that gonna accomplish?
Yeah, and that's one road that is not gonna be affected but with the no right-hand turn, and it's a straight road.
But what road would you like to put a speed bump on?
Just on Halsey.
Somerset?
No, I didn't say
No,
Somerset.
Which one?
Halsey.
So you're gonna put that on Halsey when cars are bumper to bumper. Do you want a video of it? I can give you one.
People use that as a raceway. It's a straight road.
At rush hour?
Yep.
Come on. I mean, seriously, I drive that almost
Thank you,
every
Mike.
day. It's bumper to bumper. I mean, anybody will tell you that.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Feel free to come. The only thing I would also add is it'd be important for the village residents to note that one thing that we did is that I was able to reach out to the New York State Department of Transportation. We had a long conversation, and they were actually able to increase the green light on Hill Street for longer and the turn at St. Andrews at the fire station is actually motion and weight activated, I believe. So one thing we're able to do, which I think is very helpful, is we're able to get that green light to stay on for longer. Then we worked with our police department, the town police department, and the county on the flashing yellow. And those were things that obviously don't affect the intricacies of specific side streets, but we're able to help improve some of the traffic flow. So thanks for listening, and I'll turn it over to you.
Just a question, based upon the traffic study and their recommendations, when does the barricade come down?
Once these are put in place. We're gonna
When
have
is that gonna be?
we'll have a public meeting. I believe that's the correct procedure, right, Andrew?
You will?
And which would be scheduled for March 2nd, and then we could, the day after, we could start implementing. And we're gonna be working on the signs in the between time, so we're ready, because we have to do a public meeting. So once that's done, and we should have everything in place to go. right?
You're going to need to receive a final report first, and then that final report can result in recommended changes to code, which will be,
But we didn't have a hearing to put the barricade up. Why
Once-
does we need a hearing to take it down?
once the notice of public hearing is set for the changes to code, then the board can consider a local law.
Okay, but it'll be done within, and we should see this being done quickly. We've been moving this along,
I agree.
so should be
I
done by
look
March.
forward to the day that the barricade is gone.
Yes.
And please, if you can direct the questions to the experts. Thank you.
I just have one quick question, because probably won't have an opportunity to say this again, but did the study look at stop signs as well? I know a big topic of conversation has been the 90-degree turns in the neighborhood, and so you didn't address that. Is that something that the study considered implementing?
I can answer that. So we're looking to eliminate the cut-through traffic. That's the number one goal. So the stop sign is not going to eliminate that cut-through traffic going through any of the side roads. It's going to create a slight inconvenience, but it's not going to eliminate the traffic and the volumes on the roads. Like others have said, the goal is to keep the vehicles on CR 39 moving west and not come through the village and use Hill Street.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please feel free to come up. And Mike, we're just going to do one comment per person. I appreciate you coming up already, and thank you, and you're always welcome to reach out to the board after the meeting as well.
They just mentioned something else I was curious about. Hi, my name is Peter. I'm a resident in Southampton. I drive a lot of miles between here and Amagansett and Sag Harbor and everywhere else. And sometimes I even drive at night. And a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting in the traffic light. I think it was Windmill, and I'm not sure, right around near the Stop and Shop, maybe even 7 o'clock at night, and sitting there, and there was nobody for like 2 minutes anywhere. And I said to myself, I wonder if the lights are timed. And if they're not timed, I said, with the technology we have today, why can't there be an eye or a laser that sees in all directions, that if there's no traffic, as I'm coming up to a red light, that light should be green, or instantly turn green. And I said to myself, think of all the millions of hours that people sit on Country Road 39 from the former Lobster Inn, at least right there to a watermill, that if you could somehow have the lanes open when they'd be otherwise be just people just stopping and waiting and nobody's coming or going, that this may increase the traffic flow. Could somebody maybe who's listening answer the question? Are they timed? And if they're timed, is there another way of implementing this? Maybe have a laser of some kind, or an electric eye, or something. There's got to be something with the technology we have today. It really does. And
Does anyone online want to take that?
Yeah, I will answer that. So we do a lot of traffic signal design. I cannot say that I know every signal or corridor on Long Island. Many of the corridors, and I can almost guarantee you that CR 39 is what they all have. It's called interconnect. So there is cable going from one signal to the other. They run a program, they optimize the green times for the main road and the side streets to make sure that they have traffic flow so that you have progression of the traffic. So you don't go from a green to a red to a green to a red. When they turn green, they all turn green, and they're able to allow large queues of traffic to flow through the intersection. I would think that the signals on the smaller side streets and throughout the village are most likely not interconnected and talking to each other. To go to the other question, for detection on the road, there are different ways to do that. There's video detection, there's radar detection, sometimes you'll see a cut in the road. There's a piece of wire that works on magnetism and detects the bottom of your vehicle. So as you pull up to the intersection, it knows you're there, and the light will turn green in a given amount of time. Most traffic signals, they don't want it to turn green as you're 400 feet away. Sometimes signals are used a little bit for speed control also. I would agree, in the middle of the night, it would be great if you were pulling up to the signal 500 feet away and the camera on it recognized you and it turned green. But typically they like to control speed on the main roads. I hope that somewhat answers the question a little bit.
It does. Yeah, I'm just wondering, maybe there's something better than timing, because timing's a machine, and like you said, it's a program.
Mm-hmm.
And it would almost be as though that there's somebody standing right in the middle of each road, is invisible, that's an eye that's scanning, like a Google Maps or something like that. They can see.
We'll get there eventually. We're not there yet. I can tell you that.
We're everywhere else yet, and we haven't gotten to this point. Well, it's just like government, right? We're still waiting for the best. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Peter.
My anecdotal history, I agree with the comment that was made that the traffic on Hill Street got bad when they put the light at the top of St. Andrews.
Yeah, that's when the difference came.
No question in my mind. I've been here long enough that that's when it happened. I have noticed that light now is green most of the time going east-west, and if you come down St. Andrews in the middle of the day at noon or whatever and you pull up to it, it immediately turns green for you, which is nice. If you pull up there at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, it takes a long time, like 5 or 6 minutes for it to turn, and that's the way it should be, because you want people to go east-west. But it would be much better if they got rid of it completely and just had it flashing yellow all the time. And I wish we could move towards getting that done.
Oh.
Yeah, that was something.
You could, if you'd like to come on up. Thank you.
Directed to Mr. Stevenson. Wouldn't that make it impossible to get out of St. Andrews if they eliminated the light?
Well,
during rush hour?
It gets it hard during rush hour, yeah. But I mean, it's not like it's solid. As everybody's pointed out, the traffic, as it crawls up Hill Street, finally you come up the hill and it starts to break up and move quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you could squeeze a right out,
Yeah.
possibly, but how are you gonna make a left turn out of St. Andrews without a light there, during rush hour?
Well, now you currently have I've timed it because I've sat there for it. It's at least 5 minutes that you're waiting for it to turn red.
Sometimes 5 minutes could be worse.
I'm crazy enough that I go down and turn right and then turn left and make a U and come back. I mean, it's long enough, and that's probably not. Don't quote me on that, Captain Hurtado.
You better tell the town police, Captain.
Yeah, that's town, actually.
Please feel free to come up, Meryl. Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't see your sharing screen. Was your recommendation no right turns between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. or 4 p.m. and 7 p.m.?
3 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do it in person first, and then we'll do Zoom second. Feel free to come on down for some questions.
Thank you. My name is Ken Alfred. I did have a question for the consultants. I know that the scope of work that you did here for the village was a little bit limited in the sense that you were only focused on slowing down or restricting or eliminating the flow-through traffic between 39, County Road 39 and Hill Street and vice versa. But I wonder if you have looked at any broader, I'll call them global or regional solutions that would add road capacity on County Road 39 and or on Hill Street in order to allow larger numbers of vehicles, which we all know are going to show up, to use those roads. For example, I'm thinking about taking that center left turn lane on 39 and turning it into a one-way, a reversible lane, so that heading east to west during the evening, that road could be used for westbound traffic, and vice versa in the mornings. A second option might be to do something similar on Hill Street, which is relatively wide, at least in the village, and you might be able to create a center lane, so it isn't just one-lane traffic each way on Hill Street, but you create a second lane during rush hour traffic to, again, add capacity to those roads. And so, and again, this might not have been a request from the village, but a request of a broader regional look.
Right, so obviously a review of any of the traffic and volumes on CR9 would be through the Suffolk County Department of Public Works. So they would need to engage a study based on work that we've done with them and stuff that we've seen in the past. I know that they look at it. There are right-of-way constraints in buildings and stuff like that. So I think it's a constant problem. They get complaints all the time of what's going on CR 39 because how bad it is. But it would need to be an interagency study to mix the village with the county and everybody else. I did mention that
In the town.
after
In
our
the
summer
town. It's
analysis,
not
we looked
yeah.
at Hill Street, and the road is wide enough to add a center turn lane. You have to pull some of the shoulders out. We look to try to maintain the bicycle lane. The shoulders get smaller, we have to restrict some parking. But the width from curb to curb, the width of pavement is there. You could add a center turn lane. To me, a center turn lane is helpful. Like I mentioned previously, it gets that vehicle that's making that left turn out of the through lane so that more vehicles can get past. So that is something that we looked at on Hill Street.
Okay, well, based on that, I would certainly suggest to the council here or the trustee board that you engage in fairly immediate conversation with Suffolk County, with the state, with the town of Southampton, with the other neighboring towns, so that you can act in coordination to address this broader issue. I mean, the village is not going to solve it by themselves within our borders, but that doesn't mean you should not try to engage in a broader conversation, get a committee or a group to see the problem and push a little to get some resolution for the entire Hamptons area.
Well, Jesse, you've tried to engage with the town and the county,
We
haven't you?
have. We've
That-
been in
that's
meetings
right.
with them.
We've set up multiple meetings with our county legislator, with the town highway superintendent, the Suffolk County Public Works Department, the Public Works engineers. That went hand in hand with the pilot program that the town did over the fall, as far as the flashing yellow right in Hampton Bays. And we've been in regular communication with our county legislature. I actually went in front of the entire Suffolk County legislative body and requested more work. Sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease and we have to keep on doing that, but we've definitely been on top of all levels and layers of government, and we are working well together. I did speak to the town supervisor. He said he's also reached out to the county executive, but because it's such a big county, we'd have to keep on being persistent and reaching out to them.
Yeah, well, I encourage that persistence, so thank you for keeping that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. All right, feel free to come on up, and then we have some Zoom as well.
Just sort of Ken Katz, High Pond Lane and Bishop's Pond. Just sort of following up on Ken's comments, and maybe this is the hospital still happening? Is that still going to be moved down towards the college?
I believe that's the plan.
So I just wonder if the traffic study and being proactive Is that sort of included in that? I think that the last thing you would want to do is cut off access to some of these side roads with the hospital coming, because I'm assuming that's going to build up a lot more traffic. That's it.
Ken, that's a good question. Russ, any thoughts on that?
So we did not include planned projects within our analysis at this time.
All right.
That is not, it's
Thank you, Ken.
something that if we're asked to, we can look at, but that's not something we looked at with our turn restrictions and our recommendations.
All right, thank you. We're gonna go to Zoom. And Mike, I'm really sorry I have to cut you off because we just want to limit it to one, comment per resident because it's such a long meeting tonight.
What's gonna happen to North Main Street and all those roads now? They're all gonna get all the extra traffic. That's not in the study.
Give us a moment. We're gonna get our next resident up on Zoom, and we'll make sure we give you our email addresses, and you're welcome to reach out to us anytime.
Amanda.
Hello?
We can hear you, Amanda.
Okay. I just wanted to understand with the no right turn, Somerset, Bishop's Corrigan, what that means for North Captain's Neck and Bishop's Court. This is a tiny little L with a steep hill with a turn. And if people make a right turn off of North McGee Street, off of McGee to North Captain's Neck, to try and cut through a hill, we have to have signage, is what I'm saying. The same kind of signage to stop people from using that L of North Captain's Neck and Bishop's Court as a cut through, either way. So the traffic needs to be stopped high enough, higher than McGee, but we definitely have to put a sign on North Bishop's because that'll be chaos. So I just wanted to mention those two streets because they're right there in the mix, and there's dangers on them. So perhaps a no right off of McGee into North Captain's Neck, but for the person who's turning off hill, making a right up, I'm thinking this through, making a right up Bishop's Lane, there are residents that need to make that left. So, but people were doing U-turns in that area when ox pasture was closed. So I guess it depends on what happens, but I'd like to alert you to that, and don't forget to put signage on that North Captain's Neck for sure. And to stop it high enough if you were not gonna stop it before McGee, which it sounds like you weren't. You were just gonna say when you get to Hill, but we need that little cut-through street to be protected as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Sage, is there anyone else on Zoom?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it's Wayne Miller from 24 Somerset. I just wanted to say to Russ and his team that I thought this was a well thought out and comprehensive study. I like the fact that this goes back, that what you presented, Russ, goes back to August when there was considerable traffic, and then you rolled it forward to January. This is more of a comment, I don't really have a question. And I think also coming from the professional, I think the trustees recognized, they did recognize that Somerset was a safety issue, and hearing it from Russ, that the 90-degree turns is a real big problem on Somerset Avenue. This is not something that was made up by the residents of Somerset. It is really about the design of the streets. This feels like a really good, as Roy said, this feels like a really good first step. Certainly for the safety of the residents of Somerset, maybe an additional stop sign, some sharp curve signs, maybe reducing the speed limit down to 20. Those were all things that could come afterwards, and I think will also be helpful, but certainly definitely reducing the traffic flow onto Somerset is a step to reducing the risk of what's been going on for a long time. This is not something that emanated from, at least for me, I've been there for the past 10 years. This goes back 8 years, the correspondence that I've had with the prior administration and then with Jesse and the rest of the team. So I'm very pleased, as this is a good first step, and I wanted to thank the trustees and Russ. Good job on the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Osmond, how are you?
I don't think he knows he's.
Are you gonna say something, Osmond? You're on the
Were you
big
gonna
screen
say
now.
something?
Sorry, Osmond.
I think I'm okay.
Thanks.
Sage, anyone else on Zoom? All right, thanks again. Sage, appreciate you doing such a great job back there, making these meetings nice and seamless for us, so thank you.
Hi, good evening. I had a question or clarification for Mr. Scott. Given there's no right turns on all those streets, if you're a resident on Captain's Neck, on Somerset, how do you go west on Hill Street? You have to go all the way out to Somerset, make a right on McGee, make a left on Bishop, go all the way to Moses, go all the way back to Halsey to make a right on Hill? Is that what you're telling me, based on your study?
Yes, so that was one of the reasons. So there's the one-way restrictions and the no-turn restrictions. That's one of the cons for the residents. In order to eliminate that cut-through traffic, it's impossible to eliminate the cut-through traffic without certain restrictions. So yes, someone headed west, it is a more difficult maneuver between the hours of 4 and 7. You have to loop around. You either have to go head up north, depending on where you're going, head up north through Maggie, try to cut through over to Tuckahoe and then head south. It's not an easy maneuver for the residents. I will say, in order to make some scrambled eggs, you gotta break some eggs. So there's no solution that is going to be optimal for every single person. We acknowledge that, and we discussed that internally to see if there were some solutions, but there are not.
In my 2 cents, 3 o'clock seems a little early, personally. 4 hours seems like a very long time to do the restrictions.
The reason, so we were discussing the limits between 3 and 4. We felt that if we waited till 4 o'clock, the peak hour shifts a little bit. People might leave work a half hour early. All of a sudden you start to see shifts in volumes that people are trying to get there before 4 o'clock. And now you see the peak move to 3:30. So we felt by doing it at 3, we were well ahead of the peak hour. So that was our reasoning. We did look at keeping it at 4 o'clock and doing 4 to 7, but ultimately we felt it was more important to move it up.
Yeah, I just think in the summer, with sunlight being a lot later, the day shifts a lot further out. The winter, it gets dark at 5 o'clock. People are leaving their lawn jobs or their work outside earlier, because it gets dark. So that just a comment.
No, I understand, Ken, but you'll see a large number of people try and get there at 3:45 to beat the closure if it was at 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. All right, thank you, Sage.
That's exactly, yeah, it would make it worse. That makes sense, though, because I'm glad they bumped that up to 3. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Yes, sir.
Just ask the question, Mike Linder. So if you have all those closures going down to Hill Street in that community, people coming from further east, wouldn't they tend to then use North Sea Road and North Main Street to get down if they wanted to get to the Hill Street instead of going on 39? So haven't we moved the problem just further east? It's one thing I think you guys, I don't know if you consider that in your study, because the study was focused on that community, but what about the next community over? That's a question for the consultant.
Russ, I'm not sure if you heard the question. I can repeat it for if you need. You might be on mute.
Russ, you're on mute. Osman.
I apologize. So I heard the question. We're potentially moving the problem further to the east. Is that a potential? Of course, it's a potential, moving the problem further to the east. I don't think this is the catch-all and the fix for everything. It's the fix for the community in that area, and we'll have to evaluate if all of a sudden there's more traffic on Hill Street starting from Windmill, then something else will have to be looked at. You can't solve all the problems all at once. It can't be a regional fix without getting the county involved in. The ultimate problem is getting the traffic to move on 39. That's the fix. If the traffic moved on 39, we wouldn't be discussing any of these cut-through options. Moving the traffic to the east and having it come through this street. I know it's not the answer you want to hear, but
All right, thank you, Russ.
Okay.
All right, Sage, anyone else, or is that it for the night for this issue? All right, very good. All right, I wanted to thank everybody who came out for this issue. We still have the remainder of our meeting. We have 3 public hearings and a number of resolutions to get through. So I would encourage everyone to stay if they'd like. But as far as these specific traffic issues, those are our final comments. So I'm going to move forward to the public hearing portion of the meeting. And I'm going to make a motion to open local law 3-2023, the proposal to add a new chapter which will amend the zoning map of the village. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you very much. Amend the zoning map of the village pursuant to Chapter 116-39 of the Village Code, in which will reclassify areas along Meadow Lane that are now in the R80 Residence District to instead be in the R120 Residence District. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just wanted to open this up prior to turning over to the village attorney. Prior to noticing this, I was abstaining from asking for the public hearing. I'm going to have to abstain again tonight. Again, the reason is that I did reach out to the Peconic Land Trust regarding a property in the R80 Residence District, and I feel it would be better to abstain to avoid any appearance of impropriety. So I'm going to do that, and I will let the rest of the board run this public hearing. And Andrew, if you take it away.
We have to pass the other.
So, Mayor, I would recommend this public hearing be adjourned for a future session. It's contemplated that services of engineers will be required to prepare a study along with environmental analysis that's required for submission to the Suffolk County Planning Commission before this local law can become effective.
We have to submit maps to the county for approval for this, exactly as you said, prior to approval. So that will be in a later resolution. So this should be adjourned for the time being.
I would suggest an adjournment to the next meeting.
So I'll make that motion to adjourn this to a future meeting.
I'll second.
Aye.
Okay, I'll make a motion to open the second public hearing. That's a motion to open local law 4-2023, the proposal to add Chapter 117, order of proceedings before land use boards. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll turn this over to the village attorney and then open this up to the board.
Thank you, Mayor. The new proposed Chapter 117 is intended to help with a problem that this village has been faced with recently of confusion as to which land use board an application goes to first, or if at all, or at the same time. And the idea here is to provide some additional authority to the planner with respect to making determinations directing applicants for where to go. I believe that, and this was drafted in conjunction with councils for the ARB as well as the ZBA, and I believe that this is a one solution to the problem of applicants not knowing which board to go to first and when.
And the land use boards are happy with this solution?
Yes, the councils for the land use boards were part of the drafting process, and I believe that they conferred with their clients in agreeing to this.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Any comments from the board?
No?
No.
All right.
I think this is good both for
Yeah.
the boards to have direction and also for the applicants to know where to go. I do know that in some cases, I felt when I was on the planning board, that applicants may have cherry-picked which board to go to first to present some aspect of their plan, and then they'd go to the other board, and in a sense, the applicants were adept at playing one board against the other. So I think this is a good idea in terms of streamlining that process so that everybody's got to start with the ZBA, unless, I think there's a part of this resolution that the village planner can, in the case of a multi-jurisdictional board, he could say, no, you need to start with a different one, correct?
He can create procedures for which board gets to decide first. And also whether the first board to decide can refer to another for an advisory opinion.
So, sounds good.
Excellent. Wanted to thank the board for this. Good, it was good teamwork here. I think this is going to help the public and the boards, as Trustee Stevenson said, and it will allow our planner to do his job more effectively. He's done a great job so far. So thank you very much to the board for this. Good work to everybody. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing regarding local law 4-2023. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll make a motion to open local law 5-2023, the proposal to modify chapter 21-5, public access to records. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Turn this over to the village attorney. You can let us know what this is about and open it up to questions to the public and board.
Thank you, Mayor. Simply, this changes section 21-5 of the village code and modifies it to designate the Board of Trustees as the FOIL appeal officer, replacing the mayor as the FOIL appeals officer.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Any comments from the board? All right, happy to work with everybody on this one. The only thing I would say is, as I've mentioned, but again, I'm happy to work with everybody, happy to respect the wishes of the board. My only concern here would be that if someone were to make an appeal, rather than getting an answer right away, that individual would have to wait for the next public meeting, and the Board of Trustees would have to pass a resolution in order to vote on whether the FOIL appeal would be granted or not, and that might add an extra week or two to the process. But again, I'm happy to work with this board and appreciate everybody's efforts.
Although I'm not sure if that's correct, Mr. Mayor. I believe they're handled via email now, and I believe that they could be handled the same way. Andrew?
If the board, what I would suggest is that if and when a FOIL appeal comes in, that would be forwarded to the board. I would hope that the board would involve me in the process, and I can make a recommendation for the board to consider whether adopt or not.
We don't have to wait for the next meeting, in other words. We could do it, it's being done via email now, so.
If members of the board direct me to issue a response as a response to a FOIL appeal, I will do so.
Okay.
But we would
Thank you,
still
just
have
wanted to clarify that.
still have to pass a resolution.
There should be, best practice would be to do a ratifying resolution or an advance resolution.
But we don't do that now, so that would be something new. We don't, that's not the procedure that's followed now.
I agree. The
Okay.
difference would just be that the board's action is required here, and for the board to take an action, a resolution should
Right.
be drafted.
We could do that after the
That
fact,
that can be done as a ratifying resolution
Right.
afterwards.
Okay. So it wouldn't necessarily be a slower process.
It need not be.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing regarding local law 5-2023, the proposal to modify chapter 21-5, public access to records. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there's a number of correspondences to the board or communications with the board. We've went through many of them at the last public comment, so we'll move to the discussion item. I'll turn this over to trustee.
Can I just ask, Charlene, was there anything additional here that was not related to traffic that we should be aware of?
This is
In
all-
fact, every one of them were related, they were either yay or nay on the closure of Somerset.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to know. Thank
Removal
you.
of the barricades.
Thank you, because I did not read all of these letters. I read a lot of them,
I
but not all
did.
of them. Okay, I'm not sure I read every single
And
one.
I forwarded most of them to the traffic study people.
I have yays and nays if anybody wants.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll turn this over to trustee Robin Brown regarding a discussion items for work session meeting changes.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and fellow trustees. My request is that we can more efficiently and streamline our meetings, and it's just a proposal for a discussion as far as, one, with the work sessions, work items to be discussed as well as receive input from the board, along with our attorney updates and advice, and our having that time for our executive sessions. And for the public meetings, that would be our time for the presentations, employees of the month, public comments, and resolutions. So I'm requesting that the board would think about this, add to any suggestions so that we can streamline things, make it more effective and timely. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Brown. Any discussion or comments from the board?
I'm all for making meetings more efficient, and, you know, if we
Yes,
can.
Trustee Brown and I have discussed maybe moving it to the format that the towns use, where the work session is really more of a brown bag, as they traditionally used to say. It's an open public meeting. There's generally no public comment at a public session, because our work session is not really a work session. It's a public meeting, because we have to take action. Generally at the town level, the work session, there are no resolutions passed. It's basically just Q&A, discussion items, discussing legislation, proposed legislation. There's usually an executive session.
Presentation.
And, presentations to the board, like Johnson Electric,
Controls.
Controls, when they were here last week, that could have been a work session item. And then what happens at the public meetings is there's public comment at both meetings. There would be, if we had 2 meetings a month, they'd both be public meetings with public comment. And, but less on the presentation side, more on the, addressing the public. If we need to have a brief presentation, it would already have been, kind of, all the questions would be vetted out during the work session, the public work session. And then we would have a longer executive session. And maybe, as Trustee Brown said, maybe that becomes a late afternoon meeting, and the attorney could zoom in if he needed to, because it would be a more informal meeting.
Setting.
We get a lot more work done, and then be ready for review agenda items, etc.
What does the village attorney think?
I think if the board likes it, I think it's a great idea. If it works for your board, to concentrate public hearings and resolutions where the board takes action in one meeting, and have another meeting be for presentations and consideration, I think divides things up, and it might improve efficiency.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, we'll keep on moving. I'll turn this over to you, Charlene, for the suggested resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 1, resolve the claims for the warrant dated February 9th, 2023, totaling $939,836.44. Warrant A21, General Fund, $71,728.50 warrant H11 Capital Fund, and $2,362.59 warrant T13 CS Trust Funds are hereby audited and approved. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 2, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the proposal to conduct planning and secret services regarding the rezoning of Meadow Lane in the amount not to exceed $89,900
$89,000, I hope not.
payable from trustee special projects, and that is Nelson Pope and Voorhees, I believe, correct?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
That was not.
8,900, yeah.
$8,900 from trustee special projects. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 3, the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton hereby approve local law 4-2023, the proposal to add chapter 117, order of proceedings before land use boards. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
That's a
opposed?
good one.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton hereby approves local law 5-2023, the proposal to modify chapter 21-5, public access to records. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Resolution number 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village authorize the village clerk to publish a notice of public hearing to be held Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, at 6 p.m. as a hybrid in-person/Zoom meeting regarding local law 6-2023, the proposal to amend section 43 of chapter 110, schedule L, stopping, standing, and parking restrictions. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Quick discussion. I think this could be is our regular meeting on March 9th, not March 2nd?
We have a
Yeah,
resolution.
that's the one we're moving, we have the resolution to move it to March 2nd. We had that discussion.
And how come we're moving it?
Because I have a major conflict. So,
And is it, you said you can't attend on Zoom?
no, I cannot.
Okay. All right. Okay. It's important, given that this is appreciate your concern. It's an important public hearing. We'll have to make sure we really get the word out to the residents because they know our regular scheduled meeting is on March 9th. And so we'll do that. But all right, I appreciate that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 6, resolve the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton authorize the village clerk to publish a notice of public hearing to be held on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, at 6 p.m. as a hybrid in-person/Zoom meeting regarding local law 7-2023, the proposal to amend section 37 of chapter 116, building permits, certificates of occupancy, fees, and enforcement. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 7, resolve the Board of Trustees approves the revised Village of Southampton Emergency Disaster Plan as a plan of action for emergency response. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 8, resolve the Board of Trustees approves the Village of Southampton Information Technology Policy. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Is there a second?
What, can somebody?
Yeah, I don't know if I
That's the technology.
It's in the,
It's in the packet.
It was emailed to everybody. I will tell you that
Hold on,
this,
quick, is there a second on this for discussion or no?
Second.
okay,
Is this the policy where we're gonna use the advisors to the board to check out whether, when we do an information technology bid?
no, this is, I think when we were discussing, I discussed at a previous meeting, the fact that due to the current cyber attack at the county, our cyber insurance had gone through the roof.
Oh, yes.
And
It's on this tab.
one of the recommendations was that we had cyber,
Conditions.
we had to have condition.
Yes,
We had to have
yes.
cyber awareness training, which we all have taken, and we need to have a policy in place. And the policy in place basically says you shouldn't be using your village computer for personal use, you shouldn't be shopping on the internet, you shouldn't be going on sites. And basically, it's a standard
Bullying.
operating procedure that every other municipality in the world has, but it's basically, it was written actually by Vince Toomey's office a couple of years ago.
This was
and-
from a few years
And
ago.
it was tabled, but apparently we.
Why
will
was
have-
it tabled?
I don't know, there was tweaks that were
remember.
made to it. So we decided, so at this point, we dusted it off. Andrew, myself, and Heather Harrison from Vince Toomey's office worked on tweaking it up. And if we get this implemented, we'll be able to find, it's not only gone from a very low premium to a very high premium, but now we've gotten into this market where it's hard to find a carrier. And Tom Crowley had recommended that we implement a couple of very, easy protocol that would make us more, protect us.
Right.
And we're just upgraded, we're gonna be upgrading to Microsoft 365 in the next few months, which will be a little bit cumbersome, but every time you log into your village computer email account, you'll have a third-party, a multi-factor authentication, so you'll have to give them your cell phone to get a text.
Yeah, that's happening already.
It is happening on some of the applications, so when you log in, you'll have to get that text code to log in. That's another measure that keeps our insurance and protects us from cyber attack, because we all know what happened at the county. Also, I've been working with Scott Hoffman from Fluid Imagery to implement which will be coming before the board in the next couple of weeks, a disaster plan for a cyber emergency, a cyber attack, and what measures we have in place for backup storage, cloud storage, which we currently have in place now.
So is this to be signed by all village employees?
Yes, all employees will receive a copy of the policy and an acknowledgement that they had received it. So if somebody's on a site they shouldn't be, that, they could, they'd be subject to discipline.
Right.
If they received the policy and accepted it.
Yeah.
What is the encompassing, who's an employee? For instance, am I an employee?
Yes.
So section H, if somebody wants to talk to me from the media, I have to ask your permission?
From the media?
Media contacts. Employees should not speak to the media on the village's behalf.
Oh, not the elected officials, and we're talking about employees.
Well, I'm an employee, but who?
But you're an
employee, but
elected
you're also
official.
an elected official. You're a member of the governing board.
So who is an
Helen.
employee?
I'm gonna cite this, I can't talk to you.
Attorney, what would you say?
I would say if there's any question about the policy and the board wants a resolution to exclude the electeds from it, you can do that. But the intent behind the employee is that it relates to full-time employees under the roof of Village Hall.
And they can speak to the media about other stuff, they just can't speak to the media about village business.
This policy governs the use of village-owned computer systems and IT systems only.
Okay. Sorry, just wanted to clarify that.
Well, it might behoove me to comment the press, but I might not be able to help myself at times. But my question here is why do we want our employees to not speak to the media and have to contact the village administrator? And that's question A. And then question B is what's the genesis of this portion here?
I think that was one of your requests. You didn't want the
I think
comments made to the press from employees unless.
But correct me if I'm wrong, is it, I think it's only using village devices.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, am I getting that right or wrong?
Correct. The applicability of the policy is using village computer systems.
So if you can talk on your personal cell phone, but you just can't use a village computer to communicate with people.
So a village employee is allowed to speak to members of the press on his or her personal cell phone, but is not allowed to use his or her village cell phone.
That's the way I'm understanding it.
Correct. Or their village computer.
But don't we want our employees to use the village email to talk on behalf of the village to the press? I mean, if head of the highway department is going to send a picture about a whale that got washed up on shore to the press, why would we want that to happen on their personal phone?
Well, I believe they were saying that they could, they just have to put it through the village administrator first. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But why would we want that?
Well, what happens if he wants to talk about, he hates you, or hates me, or hates anybody, who wants to make that kind of a statement? We would like that not to happen. Somebody is addressing personal grievances on using village equipment. I would think you wouldn't want that.
I mean, the hope is that, you have the relationship where there's you don't want to do that. For example, clearly if you are working with the department head, it's a good practice for the department head to speak to the department liaison or the mayor and give them a heads up just as a professional courtesy, and that's what happens most of the time anyway. For example, I use that example of, well, I got a call from the Iowa department today, is it okay if I send a picture to the press? Go for it, it's no problem. But that's just a good professional relationship when that happens. I just think that, this is something that might limit transparency, and it's not something that I think we should have. I do think other parts are important, but this H is something that I'm opposed to, and I would hope
Well,
that the village
why
board
would you want to say they're talking to the press in a disparaging way or whatever it is? Why would you want them to use village resources
Well,
to
like
do that?
disclosing information that shouldn't be disclosed, correct?
Exactly.
That might be confidential.
Well, the good news is that we have
I don't-
employees who are not doing that, and our employees also have union reps, and that's what the union reps are for. So I've been doing this for 3.5 years, and, I'm not sure, or maybe I'm incorrect, but I'm not sure if that's even happened. So I just think that this is something that would limit the transparency, and
I might say something. Let's look at it differently. It also would protect our employees because it could be something that someone is not understanding or aware of, or if it's, appropriate. So therefore, underneath the guidelines of the village administrator, we're assisting our employees. So it may not be anything as far as negative, but it's just another, check and balance.
Mm-hmm.
At my own peril, what if the policy were modified to read the village administrator or the mayor? It would provide 2 points of contact through which employees would have to go before they reach out to to the press.
then my request would just be to strike it from this policy.
Oh, I would disagree with that.
Bill?
Because I don't think that I think whatever goes to the media from an employee should be vetted through the village administrator I learned this from you, Jesse, actually a couple years ago, when somebody spoke to the press and we didn't know what they were saying to the press. And at that point in time, you said everything should be vetted via the village administrator. We should know what they're saying to the press, so it's the right information. And we're all on the same page.
I appreciate the comment. Am
Well,
I-
we go to executive, can I make a motion to take this to executive session?
Second.
Before that,
Okay.
who added this H to this?
This is, I read this a couple years ago.
This was drafted by
This
Toomey's
was-
office. It was a
Toomey's office,
standard
okay.
policy.
Yeah, it's a standard policy. It's not,
Okay, we
so all in favor?
Aye.
To
What
move
are we-
it.
what are we in favor
This
of?
is
Table?
this
To
is
bring
the
this
table
up
for
to
executive
session.
session.
So
Executive
who made a
session.
motion to table?
I did.
Okay,
Table it
okay.
to executive session. Okay, and trustee
Okay.
Manger
Thank you.
seconded.
Thank you.
All right,
Move
thank
on.
you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, resolution number 9, resolved that the Village of Southampton applied for financial assistance from the State of New York Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation under Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 for the purpose of funding the Rogers Mansion Restoration Project. Resolved that the Village of Southampton is authorized and directed to accept these grant funds at an amount not to exceed $500,000 for the project described in the grant application, and be it further resolved that the Village of Southampton is authorized and directed to agree to the terms and conditions of the master contract of the OPRHP for such Rogers Mansion Restoration Project, and be it further resolved that the Village of Southampton is authorized and directed to agree to the terms and conditions of any and required deed or easement granted to OPRHP that affects the title or real property owned by the corporation and improved by the grant funds, which may be a duly recorded public access covenant, conservation easement, and/or preservation covenant, and resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton delegates signing authority to execute the master contract and any other amendments hereto, any required deed of easement, and any other certifications to the individual who holds the following corporate office of employment position titles mayor or deputy mayor and/or village administrator. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Wait,
Aye.
wait.
Oh, discussion.
So who is overseeing this work that's gonna be done on the Rogers Mansion?
That's being done
Then-
by the Rogers.
Right, this is-
Sean Dennehy and Tom Edmonds, and I believe that Bob Hand is also involved in this.
Okay, so there's a group that's.
DPW
that's-
department, yeah.
This
Okay,
is for,
okay.
this is for the grant.
I just wanted to make sure
Right.
there's someone overseeing this, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay, all right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 10, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following 2023 beach parking permit fees as follows. Resident permit, no cost, 3 permits per property, 1 permit per business owner or manager. Additional permits may be purchased at the summer visitor rate of $500 each. Local non-village resident, $250. Senior vet, local non-resident village permit, $175, limit 1 per property. Summer visitor permit, $500. Note hotels, motels, and B&Bs must be purchased a minimum of 10. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All
Quick,
Aye.
quick discussion. A few years ago, there was a situation where we had one person buying multiple beach passes so that they could have some of their employees park at the beach parking, and I just want to make sure we have a carve-out for that as well. We did put a carve-out in the past, and I don't know if that's included in our beach policy, but I want to make sure that you can't just buy beach passes and then use a beach parking lot for your employees. This was actually something that happened in the summer of 2019. We had to fix this, and worked out well, but want to make sure that no one could do that in the future. Is that something that's part of our?
I don't understand.
We had a situation
I
in
don't remember that.
2019
Yeah.
where a resident near Old Town Beach must have purchased 10+ beach
No,
passes.
I think it's limited to 3 per property.
No, this is not for, this is non-resident.
3.
I think that what the mayor's referring to is somebody had purchased summer visitor parking and had some workers at their home parking there.
I see.
What we
Well,
could do.
is there a limit to how many people? No?
No, I mean, anybody can buy one. What we'd
Yeah,
have to do is,
$500
I guess, the TCOs would have to, if they see cars parked there every day for the entire day, they'd have to go down and make note of that. It would have to be on the enforcement end, I would imagine, because it's beach parking. It's for people who are using the beach. It's not a parking lot.
Yeah, but I don't know how we do this.
We could pass this, but we should just do a carve-out for a policy that we must state that you can't be using the beach passes to park at a village beach where there's limited parking to have your landscapers or
Yeah.
employee park there.
Were the people who purchased multiple passes using the beach, or were they doing other things?
No, they were literally using it just to park their cars, and then we had a line of moms and surfers and kids that were literally waiting to get a parking spot because one resident had actually put his landscapers at Old Town Beach. And I had to make a call, and we fixed it, but I'd like to make sure that that's embedded in our beach policy, that you can't be doing that. That's not what the beach passes are for.
Understood.
And what's the carve-out, just how do you identify that and specify it? I mean, I think it's a good point, but is it by number of passes that a person can buy, or is it just the nature of the pass, or the use of the pass? I mean, I think you've got a good point, just technically, how do you do it?
Again, I think it would probably be more on the enforcement end if the TCOs that go through there to make sure that people have stickers and valid stickers, notice the
should be-
same
it should be-
cars parked there all day long, every day, would maybe,
It should be the purchase of parking for beach access.
If there's a
not
use-
for other purposes.
Yes.
If there's a use limitation with an enforcement component in either the policy or code, that might achieve the goal.
It should somehow read that it's parking for beach access.
So we should check the code, because it might take a code amendment.
Correct. I'll make a note.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 11, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following budget transfer to cover the drastic increase in fuel prices from a 1990.4 contingency account in the amount of $30,000 to a 511048 fuel account in the amount of $30,000. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And this is on the contract, the state contract
Yes.
for fuel?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
And we had to increase the budget in the upcoming year for it as well. Resolution number 12, whereas the fire protection agreement between the Incorporated Village of Southampton and the Southampton Fire District expired on December 31st, 2022, and whereas the village is desirous of ensuring ensuring continued fire protection services and the village of, for the village and the district have worked together to negotiate a fire protection agreement. The proposed agreement, which provides the terms for the fire protection services for the period of time from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2025. Now be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton, subject to council's review, approves the proposed agreement and delegates signing authority to execute the proposed agreement to the mayor and/or deputy mayor. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second, in discussion. I just would like to give everybody highlights of this agreement. Trustee Manger and I have been working with the fire district for some time. This has been, in the past, a difficult negotiation. I would like to say, Bill, that I think this went a little bit better. The district agreed that they would pay 40% of the all-in operating cost. Village Administrator Cagle Betts put together a spreadsheet which included not only the direct operating costs related to the fire department, but also some of the additional operating costs such as insurance, cleaning people, her time, Julie's time. So the all-in cost, the district has agreed to pay 40% of that, which is an increase of 3%, I think, from the previous contract. They've also agreed to fund the capital requirements of the fire department to the tune of $350,000, and the village will chip in $525,000.
Again, it represents 40%.
Each year, again, a 40-60 split. That is a ratio that has been kind of accepted in the past, but was not codified in the agreement. The district will keep those funds, but on presentation from the village of the purchase order to purchase the necessary capital equipment, we'll send the village a check for the required amount. So that's the good news. The district has also agreed to, they paid to the fire department $180,000 directly to the fire department each year, which the fire department uses for their fraternal operations, and they've agreed to increase that in the second and third year of this agreement by the same escalator as their payments to the village will increase each year. It is a 3-year agreement. Previous agreements have just been for 1 year, so it gives us some stability, and we have agreed to talk with the district about the idea of further cooperation, but have made no promises in that area. We have agreed to consult the district in terms of what equipment should be purchased and seek their advice and counsel on that, but they do not have veto power over what equipment we would be purchasing. So I think it's a very good contract for the village. Trustee Manger, do you want to add anything to what I said?
No. I mean, we started working with the fire district and the chiefs back in the fall, and it took several months. But again, I think the fact that we've gotten a 3-year contract is fantastic for the village, so that we won't have to have this come up on an annual basis. And I think this is a very good deal for the village. It's a good deal for all the residents in the fire district. And I think this is a good step forward for relations with the fire district and the fire department. And I look forward to this being concluded. I understand that the fire district is actually approving this at their meeting tonight as well. So this should all be done today, and we can move forward over the next 3 years.
Excellent. I just wanted to thank you, Trustee Banger, and you, Trustee Stevenson, who was the liaison to the police department. I'd echo those thoughts. Fire department, thank you. This is a significant step in the right direction. It secures more funding for our fire department from the district. We have an outstanding and one of the best, if not the best, fire department. This is something that we discussed last year when we did a 1-year extension to try to get a better contract for our Southampton Village Fire Department. which services the fire district, which includes Shinnecock, Tuckahoe, and parts of Watermill. So this is great, and I really think everyone did a great job as a team. So I wanted to thank our entire board of trustees, village administrator, village attorneys, and the fire district for their work and patience in this. And this is a nice improvement for the village and the fire department. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mr. Beer.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 13, the Board of Trustees hereby approves with respect to the 2023 village general election, and in accordance with Village Code Chapter 6-1, the election will be held on Friday, June 16th, 2023. The polling place will be located at the Levitas Center, Southampton Cultural Center, located at 25 Pond Lane, Southampton, New York. Polls will be open for the time frame as follows: 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The following offices will be filled: for village mayor, for one position for the term of office of 2 years, current incumbent Jesse Warren. The following offices will be filled: for village trustee, 2 positions for the term of office, both positions is 2 years, incumbent Robin Brown, incumbent Roy Stevenson. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 14, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby amends the public meetings schedule as follows: Board of Trustees meeting from March 9th, 2023 to March 2nd, 2023. Planning Commission from March 2nd, 2023 to March 9th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 15, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the temporary closure of Narrow Lane from Hampton Road to Wickapog Road for the Southampton High School commencement ceremony on Friday, June 23rd, 2023, rain date 24th, from 4:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 16, resolved the Board of Trustees approves the 2023 Summer Concert in the Park and Shakespeare in the Park series from the Southampton Cultural Center. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Do we have the dates for those?
I think they're,
I
are
think
they
they're
here?
in here.
I think they're in here.
If you look in 16, tab
Okay.
16.
Okay, 'cause I just
Starts
Right
May,
here,
Sunday, May
16.
30th
We
with
sometimes
Nancy,
get ourselves in
Nancy
trouble when we don't know the
Atlas,
exact dates.
and that goes all the way down to August 30th.
Shakespeare in the Park is 25th and 26th of August.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's very helpful.
Okey
Okay.
dokey, and that'll be noticed on the website, both the village website and the Southampton Cultural website, after
Okay,
it's approved.
Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 17, the Board of Trustees approves the Rotary Club of Southampton to hold its 32nd annual Firecracker 8K Walk Run on Sunday, July 2nd, 2023, 6 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. start and finish in Agawam Park. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That concludes the resolutions.
All right, we'll move to comments from board members. So we'll start with,
Are you doing a mayoral appointment?
I'd like to, I was going to wait to the end, but I'm happy to do it now.
I just, yeah.
Andrew, do you have a resolution ready? If not, I can.
Sure, is there a motion to walk on a resolution for a mayoral appointment?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the mayoral appointment of Mark Greenwald to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term ending June 30, 2027.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for that. And we'll go back to the
We'll go on
comments
comments again?
from
The
from
end
board,
too?
yes.
Oh, okay.
If you don't, we could skip this if
We
you
could
guys want.
skip. That's
It's up
okay.
to-
I'm getting tired, but,
Okay.
you know, I'm gonna talk about the bellies and the historical museum, but anyway, I'm good. I think we did enough talking tonight.
I think this was a good meeting.
Yeah.
Very happy we had some good outcomes.
I had one thing I wanted to say.
Please, go
Is
for
it
it.
okay? Unless, Robin, you usually go next.
Please be my guest.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that the date for signing up to take the chief's exam is February 15th, which is next week. The county is offering the chief's exam March 25th. I have spoken with Commissioner Bill Bratton. I also spoke with Ed Hartnett, and I've spoken to the Police Executive Research Forum. I have spoken to all of them and sent them a copy of our notice that we are looking for a chief in the village of Southampton. They have sent out to their contacts the request and are encouraging people they know to sign up for the test so that we have as many candidates, qualified good candidates, that will sign up next week to sit for the test on the 25th, so that, again, we have a very good pool of candidates to draw from when we get the results of the test. So I just wanted to let the public know that, and again, speak to anybody out there who would like to sign up for the test, to take the test on March 25th, but the deadline for signing up for the county is February 15th. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Trustee Manger. Any other comments? Trustee Brown, Trustee Stevenson, happy to go into executive session. The only thing I would add is that I wanted to thank our board and each respective liaison for their work with the budget process. We're well into our budgetary process right now for the next fiscal year, and we'll be having a public hearing later this spring, and then ultimately adopting the budget, but that process is underway, and wanted to thank everyone for their help and their participation. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel, legal and contractual matters. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the time is 9:53 p.m. I'm going to make a motion to return to public session. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have two resolutions that Andrew is going to read.
Thank you, Mayor. There was previously number 8 was tabled. Is there a motion to reconsider agenda item number 8?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now, is there a motion resolved the Board of Trustees approves the Village of Southampton Information Technology Policy? So moved?
Moved. I make the motion.
Second?
Oh.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. A motion, whereas the Village of Southampton has adopted a new Chapter 44 of the Village Code which prohibits a person from conducting or engaging in a home improvement business in the village without first obtaining and maintaining a license issued by the Town of Southampton, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton, subject to council review, approves entry into the proposed intermunicipal cooperative agreement with the Town of Southampton.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.